Okay, here we go. What is your opinion of liberals? What do you think of Democrats? That is the question we're going to be asking. What is your opinion of Democrats? Good, bad, indifferent? Now, I get a lot of right wingers on my forum. I do get liberals, and I certainly get my share of libertarians. But under a Biden administration, there is no doubt that there is a lot of buyer's remorse, even with folks who supported him in 2020. So I'm going to be the pinata tonight. And I'm making it clear I'm actually doing this. I'm willing to sacrifice my own self. Gosh, how noble of me. I'm sacrificing my own self because I am sick and tired of having conversations in regards to Americans losing their lives in mass casualty events. So tonight I thought I'd take a break from that because someone most likely will be shot tomorrow and this will continue. So we can talk about folks losing their lives in mass casualty events another time. So tonight I'm going to allow myself to be used as a punching bag, a pinata of sorts. And I'm going to ask the question, even from a guy with a name like mine. What do you think, or what is your opinion of liberals? What is your opinion of Democrats? And I'm willing, hey, once again, like I say always in every broadcast, free speech. We let you guys get a chance to speak. Hi from Virginia, Eston Good. Good evening to you. I think he's doing a great job in many areas, especially foreign policy, says Arsha Fine. Something in regards to Biden with the Ukraine, I do believe most Americans, now I know my MAGA folks are not a big fans of the money we've given to Zelensky and the Ukrainians. But most Americans, I do believe, have a sympathetic heart for what the Ukrainians are going through. So when you say you believe Biden is doing a good job in regards to foreign policy, that may be an area where he's doing all right. Ukraine owed Biden. Oh, you said Ukraine owned Biden. I'm assuming you're talking about the laptop and things like that, Markinson. Let's see what comes out of that. My guess is nothing, but let's see what comes out of it. Certainly with Biden, with a Biden administration, even if Hunter Biden is guilty, you're not going to get anything while his dad is president. Just do your own research. Good Lord, says Mill Wright. Give me an area where you're suggesting I do research. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about the president of the United States, there is a variety of avenues you could travel down and do your own research. So give me the area you're suggesting. NGA Bro Coleman, good evening in Tennessee, the volunteer state. I've had and have many, wait a minute, the dash, you said I've had and have many liberal libs. I don't get what you're trying to say there. I don't have any problem with liberals like you. At least you're reaching out. Thank you, Angry Patriot. Thank you. And with a name like Angry Patriot, I can do nothing but show you love for a comment like that. I do appreciate that. Scrolling through the comments, the Senate needs to do better. Biden has some great policies. They need to pass it. Well, Senator Joe Manchin is probably the biggest sticking point. By the way, folks, with 400 folks in here, you guys can definitely tap your screens. Get your boy around 5,000 likes. I would really be happy about that. With Senator Joe Manchin in there, it's a difficult task to suggest that the Democrats have a Senate majority. Joe Manchin has not supported President Biden on literally any of his signature policies, whether it's the tuition stuff he talked about, policing reform, the George Floyd Act. I mean, most of President Biden's signature promises that he made to his liberal constituents, Joe Manchin has been on the other side of that. So in regards to the core promises that the Biden administration made, they do not have a Senate majority because Joe Manchin is voting against them on literally all of that stuff. If for some reason the Liberal Party tried to vote any measure of gun control from any avenue, he would probably vote against Biden. I mean, he's a West Virginian senator. He's not going to support Biden on anything that is even remotely controversial. Career politician on either side is corrupt, says Kelsey Stone. Yeah, I think there's a lot of corruption when you start talking about lifelong politicians. They get in really good with lobbyists. They know how to squeeze money out of everything. And to some degree, that's all they focus on. Great leader of the sheep, says Howie writes. Are you suggesting that Biden is a leader of sheep? Was Trump a leader of sheep? Was Obama? I mean, give me your spiel. I'm West Virginian, says Rick Yoke. What is it Virginians for lovers or West Virginians for lovers? I've been through both states. West Virginia is heavily mountainous, a lot of rural areas. And by the way, you are from West Virginia. We'll bring you up. Good evening, Rick.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Hang on one second. Make sure my so I can hear. Can you hear me,
Yeah, I hear you well.
Rick? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Good evening to you. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. So, what do you think of? What is your opinion of the Democratic Party or liberals in general?
I'm a Democrat. But I'm in a state that's
You're a West
right.
Virginian. You're a West Virginian that leans left.
Exactly. I'm a blue dot in a
No,
very red state.
no kidding, no kidding. How is that?
Yeah. Well, I pay attention to things, and and like you said,
Fair
I
enough.
like the way you put it too. We've talked before, but I like the way you put it too. You said left leaning, and I prefer that term because I think there's so many of us that have left the center.
Yeah, well, it's really difficult to remain in the center, certainly during our current political atmosphere, because
Right.
everybody's kind of went into their corner. So if you're in the center, you're probably standing there by yourself.
It's almost hard to get there. You
Yeah, it
know,
really is. It really
like
is challenging.
I wanted to talk to you about this. Because I believe we're about the same age. I've talked to you before, but you remember back when like the McCain Biden days when they were in the Senate and they talked to each other and stuff, and
I'll
that
go
sort of
back.
thing.
I'll even go back. I'll even top that with the Bill Clinton, Newt Gingrich days. They balanced the budget
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
Yeah, so
and there
we don't
was
have that right now.
it just doesn't exist. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just so it's
I
tough,
will say
man.
this. I'll say this: if you are certainly, I don't know about Obama. I guess there was plenty of division under Obama too. But I'll say with the Trump party, if you were a Republican under the Trump administration and you reached across the aisle, you would turn into a rhino before you could get your hands back.
Absolutely. See, I believe
So,
that's very problematic.
yeah, it is. I agree too. I definitely agree.
And they're here now. Here we are. And I don't think this is where most of us want to be.
Well, let me ask you this. Speaking of both sides going into their respective corners, Vandal 1715 in the comments said the left has gone too radical. The midterms approved this for sure. So, do you believe the left wing? Not, I guess we're going to assume the right wing is not radical, but do you believe our party, considering we both lean left, do you believe the left side of the aisle has went too far to the left?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't. I mean, it's kind of hard to bunch Bernie Sanders in with AOC, if you know what I mean. You
I
know
know
what I'm
what you mean.
saying?
Yes, I do.
So
I know
you
what you
kind
mean.
of got to separate those two out. But yeah,
Well, Elizabeth Warren would be in that crowd probably too.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I think most people look at them way away from the center, even though their views are very different. You know what
Well,
I'm?
yeah, I get what you're saying. I will say this, and I use this comparison oftentimes on broadcasts, is that Bernie Sanders was never a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat to get access to the Democratic money so he could run, just like Trump is not a Republican. Trump ran as a Republican to get access to Republican funds so he could run. And what has happened is both Bernie Sanders and Trump have made a major change to their parties, and the parties have went in the direction of both of those guys. So now, and that's why the establishment politicians in the Republican Party and the Liberal Party do not like Trump and Bernie Sanders. The establishment Democrats, they don't like Bernie Sanders very much. And the establishment Republicans do not like Trump because both of those guys would be a rhino and a dino or whatever, however you want to pronounce it. But Trump
Right.
is a Republican in name only. What's unusual is Trump came into the Republican
Oh, say
Party.
that one more time. You said Republican. Really? Could you just say that one more time?
Yes, if you look at the
Trump
technical
is a rhino.
definition,
Say it one more time. I
yeah,
want to hear
the
you.
rhinos and dinos. If you look at the technical definition of what a rhino is, a Republican in name
I
only,
know. I'm very familiar.
Trump by far fits the definition of a Republican in name only, far more than say Mitch McConnell or some of these guys. Now, if
I
they
agree.
like the direction Trump is taking the party in, that's fine. It's fine if you like the direction MAGA's going. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at what a typical Republican is, Trump ain't that. Go ahead.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because he lacks conservatism. Period. I
Yeah.
mean, boom.
Yeah. I mean, even
In
if
in all aspects. I mean, he's not that person.
yeah,
He
I mean
just
Trump is an energetic guy, and I can certainly see the draw to him, but he's not a Republican. I mean, he
no,
even came to the party saying, "I'm gonna drain the swamp," and that's Republicans too. He's not a Republican.
no, he
Yeah.
didn't.
So
Yeah, so it's been the party's been bastardized, has been taken over. I think, and it's I don't know.
both sides are. If Bernie Sanders had got elected, he would have probably been a very popular left wing politician, just like Trump is, and he would have flipped the Democratic Party the exact same way Trump has done it.
Well, I was going to go to the reason why, like the core reason why I believe lean left, and
Okay.
it's like social policies. And boy, I pulled out the S word. I said it. Okay,
Okay.
social. You know what I'm saying? But like
I totally understand.
I firmly believe that healthcare should be a right.
Okay. What about
And
tuitions? Let's go a little further to the left. What do you believe? What do you think in regards to Joe Biden kind of going along with AOC and Bernie Sanders and suggesting tuition forgiveness? What do you think about that? Now that's a
but
further
wait.
left policy.
I mean, if you could just, could you address universal health care and why you don't, or do you support, like a
No, I
social
I,
health care
I
system,
absolutely
because
yeah.
all other
Go ahead.
industrialized nations do that. So, I mean, that would be my argument to it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I absolutely support universal health care. Real quick in the comments, Frank's Nord, whatever his name is there, he said all debating on here will never change anything. Actually, it's a start. No, we don't expect to change Washington policy on here, but if you're talking on here and you can see the other side, it may help remove stereotypes, and it may actually make open your eyes on certain aspects of the candidate that you might vote for. It actually may make changes on the grassroots level. That's all I'm saying. And by the way, it's not meant to change your level of thinking. It's just meant to really create a constructive dialogue. But if we take it from you, where we just simply do not talk at all, then we're just emulating Washington. Go ahead, Rick.
Ah, man, that was beautiful. I agree 100%. That's why I do this. I've
Thank
done it
you.
so much, I've actually got my algorithms put over to people like you. No, I'm just messing with
Nothing wrong
you.
with that. Nothing wrong
that
with
was
that.
that was a joke. But
Fair enough.
yeah, I mean, but like universal health care, I mean, all other industrialized nations have socialized health care. You can't, for example, okay, I'm going to bring out the gloom and doom. Go bankrupt, for example, from having a health condition for which you didn't have insurance. I mean, that's the argument, and
Well,
I agree with it. I agree with that. I mean,
and see, I guess here's where the liberal of me strongly comes out, and that is, look, this America's a capitalist country, no doubt. And when you start talking about stuff where we're discussing, folks start yelling the socialist word, the other S word. The problem is there are certain avenues of civilized life, of civility, that capitalism can be dangerous in. And one of them is, in regards to healthcare. If I look at your healthcare as with dollar signs, the poorer you are, the less I care about your health. Just like policing, you don't want policing to be done on a for-profit basis. So there are certain areas I believe of just simply civilized life that should not be for profit. And unfortunately, a large portion of our healthcare in this country operates on a for profit basis, which is why the poor folks don't have it. I'll give you the last word. I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last word.
oh, Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, I hope we could work together to change that. But hey, thank you so much for, having me in.
Anytime. Welcome back. Enjoy being a blue dot in the middle of West Virginia. That's got to be a challenge.
It's all good. Take care, brother.
Absolutely. You too. A few comments before I go on to the next. My healthcare insurance cost me $18,000. Did I see that right? It scrolled. $18,000 a year says Walker Run 5. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter what party you are, whether you're left or you're right. You'd have to understand that an American citizen being expected to pay $18,000 a year for healthcare costs is above the capabilities of a lot of working Americans. And by the way, when he says 18,000 a year, I'm going to assume that there's certainly going to be out-of-pocket costs, deductibles, and co-pays on top of that. That's not going to, that 18K is probably not going to solve everything. Prescriptions, all of that stuff. So just understand that, as far as healthcare, it works when you don't need it. But when you absolutely need it, most Americans cannot afford the health care they have, even employed Americans. A lot of the lifetime caps and things like that, the minute you start really needing it, a lot of Americans realize they can't afford it. And that is folks who even already have it. Those are folks who actually have health care. I got into a debate once with a Trump supporter. Now, I believe she was a Republican. I think this was before Trump even came on the scene. She was a Republican. This is when Obama was promoting universal health care. And she was adamant she did not need it, didn't want it, it was bad for America. She was making $10 an hour at Walmart. And she was stating that I get health care through my job and I'm just fine. Now, she was a 26-year-old, but let's be clear. At $10 an hour, anything that comes out of pocket for her health care, she would not be able to afford it. And you can be damn for sure that if you got health care at Walmart, there's a lot of out-of-pocket costs associated with that. But she really thought, I don't need it. I'm doing okay with this $10 an hour and the health care they provide. Let's go to Edward, see what's going on. Of course, folks, the question we're asking. Hold on a second, Edward. Hold on a second. Just to give for you folks who are in here now, the question we're asking is, what is your opinion of Democrats? What is your opinion of liberals? I'm willing to put myself on the line and be a pinata, be a punching bag of sorts, because I am absolutely sick of talking about folks losing their lives in mass casualty events and gun control. So we're going to talk about a little better subject, a little bit more upbeat. Good evening, Edward.
Good evening.
How are you?
All right, not bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the liberal. It's more of a progressive that I think is a bad word for me.
Why don't you like progression?
I don't mind progression, just the way we do it. It's just the way it's done. And I'll give you an example. So that guy was talking about health care, right? So I work at a company that gives me great health care. Always had it. So we'll throw that out there. But part of the issue with the way we do things in this country compared to the way they do things in, say, the Scandinavian countries that everybody talks about. Well, over there, everybody pays a certain percentage of your income. So I don't know what the percentage is. Let's just say it's 40%. Well, everybody pays 40%, and everybody gets to partake in all of the social, social programs.
All of the entitlement programs.
Right, all the entitlement. It don't matter if you make $10 million a year, you paid your 40%, you get to partake. But over in this country, the way they want to do it, this guy pays, say he makes $1 million a year, he pays $400,000 a year, and this person here makes, well, here, let's do it in a little bit lower numbers. Let's say you make $100,000, you pay 40%. You got another person says makes $25,000. They pay practically nothing. Well, this guy up here, he still has to pay for all of his shit. See what I'm saying? Like, and I give you see what I'm saying? So that's why people are so hard up on it.
I get what you're saying. Let me just put it this way. one thing that our system has, our tax system, because you're talking about taxes, our tax system is designed to benefit the wealthy. For instance, the more money you make, the more shit you can claim. Now, dollar for dollar, you're going to be, someone like Elon Musk is always going to be paying a hell of a lot more than anybody else.
Right.
But percentage wise, he's probably not. I mean, but because there's so many things he can claim, whereas if you work a regular W-2 job, you're single girl with an apartment, you can't really claim shit.
Right.
Whereas the business owners, the ones, this kind of reminds me of Mitt Romney in 2012, because Mitt Romney was making most of his income off of investments. And he was using the excuse, well, the investment has already been taxed. And I think they were saying he was paying like 12% or something like that.
Right.
A regular working stiff, you will never pay 12%.
No. Well, and see, but okay. Well, let's take. Well, I'm going to use Obamacare, the ACMA Act. So, the way that was set up was, okay, so this guy here makes X amount of money. He pays this much for insurance. This person here makes X amount of money. They have the same amount of insurance, but this person, or the same insurance, but this person may pay $25. This person may pay $1,000 based on their income.
Right.
You see what I'm, so basically it's X paying for Y's insurance, or a lot of Y's insurance. And that's why I think people have such a problem with it and don't want to go that route, because, the guy I knew, he was paying almost as much as his mortgage and insurance. But, he did make about $300,000, but you still have to, you still have to save money to put your kids in college.
I get your point. I guess the best way I would respond to that is any entitlement program we have in this country, the rich are going to pay far more than the poor. Like, for instance, let's take the police. Everybody's tax money goes to make sure we have police when you dial 911. If you're poor, you're paying a hell of a lot less to provide the country with police services than the wealthy. The reason why you hear the complaint when it comes to the Affordable Care Act is because they actually were releasing the numbers. But any entitlement program, the wealthy people are paying far more for it than the poor people, because if you let the wealthy people pay the same amount, the poor people don't have enough to sustain the program.
Right. Well, but I guess my point that I'm getting to is, let's just say, all right, this is what's going to happen. You're going to pay 40% of your paycheck. Don't care how much you make. You know what? I'm going to have to hop off here. My wife is hollering for me. I'll try to hop back on later.
Anytime. We don't want to get you in trouble. Come on back through later. Don't want to mess up the man's marriage. That's the first thing. Happy wife. There's something to that phrase. We'll stop at that. We'll just say happy wife. All that, the rest of that phrase is, who knows? Okay, let's go back to my opinion of liberals is getting worse every day. I see them of the enemy of the state. Wow. Okay, Roger, as I say, is Born or Roger Bourne or Horn. What about liberals make you think that they are, or what's leading you to consider them as almost an enemy of the state? That's a pretty harsh statement. I mean, I'm willing to let you speak on it. Elaborate on enemy of the state, huh? That's hard. Okay, let's bring some. Let me see here. Republicans are there to cover for the Democrats. The end. Covering what kind of way, Billy? Good evening, Samantha.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. Tonight we're talking about liberals. Like I've made it clear, we've had enough discussions on kids losing their lives to mass casualty events and gun control. I'd rather talk about something a little bit more upbeat or a little bit different. So the question I'm asking is, what is your opinion of the Democratic Party? What's your opinion of liberals?
The Democratic Party are the suits, I feel like. They're the CEOs. They're the ones that have the control, whether it's money, power.
You think the suits are liberal, or are you just saying liberal suits?
Both. Okay. I mean, because I think
let's start out with liberal constituents. How about that? Let's look at Democratic voters in kind. Liberal constituents. What do you think of them?
Well, I have a liberal cousin, and she drives me crazy. So I will be
In
honest.
what way?
I don't. She's she's all for open borders. She's for abortion. She's for all the talking points that a lot of liberals are for. And I'm okay with that because she has a right to her opinion like I do. But I don't like being degraded, and that's more of what I come
Okay.
across. And I
Okay.
that rubs me
So
the wrong way and then gets me fired up.
fair. I mean, being degraded would get anybody fired. I can totally understand that, which is why I like to have a conversation with the other side without the degradation. But what about policies in regard to liberal policies, liberal legislation that we submit? How does that? I'm assuming it rubs you the wrong way, but give me your spiel on that.
It does, but it's also because I was raised, I think, a lot differently than most people. Like, I was
What
raised
part of the
Mormon.
country?
I do not
Oh,
agree with
wow.
the Mormon religion at all. I do love the whole family unit is extremely important to them. But other than that, I was born and raised in that religion, and I had a church member that I had known since I was born walk into my house and tell me that when I die, I will never see my children or my husband because I was not married in one of their Mormon temples and that my husband was a Gentile because he's not a member of the church. And I kindly asked her to leave my house. She had never laid eyes
Wow.
on my husband, never spoke to him, nothing. And I thought,
Wow.
who are you to come in my house and speak to me like that?
That was a deeply devoted person. And see, that's why I'm not really religious because there's just too much judgment. And
Yeah.
when I hear folks talking about putting religion back in schools and things like that, my spiel I give on that is that America at one point was a deeply religious country. The further back in history you go, the more religious America was. And the
Mm-hmm.
further back in history you go, the more oppressive and judgmental it was. I would never want to go back to that. And that's just the liberal side of me suggesting that yeah, I think that's bad. But that's me. I understand a lot of folks disagree.
No, I agree with that because times have changed. We're not in the 1800s anymore. I
Right.
mean, people have changed. People have evolved. Whether we
Well,
like it or
the,
not.
Well, the thing is, there are far more different groups of people in the country than there were in the 1800s,
Hmm.
too. Back in the 1800s, we didn't give a damn about anybody else. If you were Native American and you had your own religion, or an African American or a Hispanic, nobody gave it. You had to be Christian. In 2022, we've evolved to the point where your other religions now count. Folks have to actually give your religion respect as well. So putting religions in schools in 2022 just would not work.
Right. Well, and if you want to unite this country, then we need to stop judging everything and everybody. You don't have to like what a person does or says, but you can love them as a person. Judge
I
them
like
on
that.
their character.
I like that. I definitely
I
like.
mean,
That's almost very similar to Martin Luther King's statement about judging based on character as well.
because there's
Yeah.
always going to be evil. No matter what you do, there's going to be evil in this world. That's
So
just the way it is.
so hate. I'm hating to go back into my subject I didn't want to talk about, but in regards
Sorry.
to mass casualty events, do you believe that
Hmm.
is something that we just have to normally? Is that going to just become a normal part of American life? You said there's always going to be evil, which is what made me ask that. Is that just
Yeah.
going to be part of our life?
I mean, I would hope not, but if you look at history, it just seems like it gets worse and worse over the decade. It's never going to be the way it was. Like you said earlier in your live earlier today, it's never going to be the way it was in the 50s and 60s. So why talk about it? It doesn't make sense. There are too many aspects of that. When I've talked to you before on your lives about parenting, there's a huge problem with parenting. People aren't parenting their kids. And I see it every day as I teach preschool. Um, but there's other aspects of it. Then you got to look at the single parents. There are a lot of single parents doing the best they can. I know one that's trying to raise 4 kids on her own and work third shift. I can't imagine what that's like.
No, that's got to be a challenge. I'm fortunate I've never had to deal with that. Let me ask you about this comment because we're talking about the opinion of liberals. NGA Brill Coleman in the comments, a frequent viewer of the program, liberals would rather destroy than move to a country they glorify. When you think of liberals and Democrats in general, do you have that opinion that liberals would rather destroy the country than move somewhere else that they think is better?
The extreme liberals, I kind of like AOC, absolutely. I don't see them doing anything for their states, for the country. It's like they're trying to divide more.
And it's crazy that okay, I'm gonna ask you some questions on I'm going to ask you some questions on AOC, but interesting because I read his comment what I just gave you, and followed by his comment. As long as we have these right wing whites, Caucasians, the world will suffer, not the nation. He has the world will
And
suffer. So that
that's the division. That's the division
yeah,
I'm talking about. The color of your skin does not matter.
okay, all right, okay.
When
So
you're if
let's
you're
go
going
to
to
AOC.
judge if you're
Go
going to
ahead.
judge somebody based on their skin color, you're just going to have a bad ending because
Well,
nothing's ever.
I will say this: he did say right wing. He didn't just say Caucasians in general. So he has an issue with whites that lean right. So he
But
did.
I'm a
He did.
Republican and I'm a
Yeah.
Trump supporter. Does that put me in that? He knows nothing about me. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I'm all for the Second Amendment.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
But
Now I mentioned I was going to go back to AOC.
mhm,
Okay. In regards to because you kind of agree with NGA Bro Coleman about liberals destroying America, the far left liberals. Give
right.
me elaborate on something that AOC has done or suggested that you believe would totally destroy America.
Well, one of the statements she made during the 2020 riots was people are looting to buy bread and to get bread and get things. No, they're not. They were looting to create more chaos. What in your brain, how did that make sense?
Yeah,
She
I don't know
says
what.
things like that, and I'm just at a
Yeah, I
loss.
can't imagine. I mean, I submit to Black Lives Matter that the movement, not the organization, is
Right,
corrupt, but I support
right,
the movement. But I can't. I've seen the riots and looting on different cities, and yeah, I didn't see anybody looting to find food. I mean, in America, if it's one thing you can get your hands on, it's food. I
right.
I don't think you need. I don't. I would have to see that. I did not hear her say that. I would certainly like to see the context of what would make. I mean, I listen. She's a young woman. She acquired a lot of political power really fast. But is she really that dumb to say? I'd have to hear that.
I
I would
don't.
have to hear
I remember watching that video and going, how do you even come to these conclusions? I'm not understanding. But the one thing I wanted to talk to you about real quick,
that.
because
Sure.
I know you'll have to move on, is the
Absolutely.
universal health care. I'm not in favor of that, and that is because, and maybe it's my personal experience, but my daughter has cystic fibrosis. It is a terminal lung condition. She had a 50% chance to make it to 18. She made it, but it's still something in the back of my head, as she's grown up. I
Okay.
don't want the government telling my daughter if she needs a lung transplant in 20 years. They're not doctors. I don't want them to have that kind of control over healthcare for anybody. But obviously, my daughter comes to my head first. And our healthcare system is broken. Don't get me wrong. It's that they're all for profit. They charge outrageous amounts and make huge profit. And then you have companies that offer the worst healthcare plans to their employees. That's part of the
Okay.
problem.
Well, okay. Well, let me, in response to what you just suggested, where the physicians in the future may give your child orders that or suggestions that you don't want. NC Blue Dot in the comments said you would have the freedom to see what doctor you want, so you wouldn't be forced to do that with universal health care.
But
She
how
that's what
long
she
would it
suggested.
but how long would it take for her to get to a doctor? Because look at Canada.
Yeah,
I mean, would it be too I mean,
I
without
get your
going
point.
into a lot of medical detail, I mean that could cost her life. And that's
I
not
get
just
you.
her, it's other people, cancer patients, heart disease. They have to
I
wait too
guess.
long and it's too late.
Yeah, I get your point. I guess to some degree, no matter what entitlement we have, there are going to be winners and losers with it. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that. Yeah, no government program is perfect. In fact, no privatized program is perfect. I don't
Mhm.
think that there's any way that we could have a universal health care where everybody is happy and it's working for everybody. There's always going to be somebody that has certain conditions where they were, and not only that, but let's face it, if you got money and you can afford your own health care, you're always going to be better off in the private sector than with universal health care, which is why most of the people who were complaining were folks who had jobs and had health care already.
Right. Well, and I know when
Yeah.
Obamacare come in to play, we ended up paying the penalty for not having insurance for my husband and I because it was cheaper than paying for the insurance.
Oh, and I've heard that. I've heard folks say that I would rather pay the penalty as opposed to getting. And it make, like I said, if you can afford that penalty and you can afford decent health care, I can understand not wanting to take a step down and get into a universal pool of sorts.
Right.
Like you said, look at the wait lines in other countries. I can see that. But the question becomes, if we don't have universal health care, there are going to be people walking around with nothing at all.
Yes. And that's the problem, that you have to try to find some kind of a solution or a happy medium, something, because the insurance, my husband's employer at that time when Obamacare come out, was not giving us good options at
Yeah.
all. And
I
that's,
think
again, like I said, that's part of the problem. You have employers that are offering the cheapest plans. Well, that's
yeah.
not helping.
No. I think the solution. I think I'm fairly confident what the solution would be, and most Americans are not going to like it. And that is, let the working folks with their own insurance that they're happy with keep it, and just add an additional tax that would cover that. No, nobody wants to be taxed, and that's why it doesn't work. I mean, we trying to come up with ways of helping the poor without charging the rich or charging those that have anything, and that's just not
Right.
possible. In countries that have decent universal health care, they get it because they're taxing the citizens.
Yeah. I mean, and you see
So,
that in Canada.
yep.
They're paying more for everything to pay for that. But I don't know, because you
Yeah.
have, it's not just adults. I mean, you have kids with cancer. It breaks my heart. I mean, I've seen it when my daughter was in the hospital. I've seen a tube come out of a kid's top of their head,
Shit.
just
Ow.
draining something. I don't know what, but it breaks your heart because no child deserves to have to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a difficult task to take, but I think that that's probably going to be the way you'd have to do it, and nobody wants that. But listen, Samantha, let me go ahead and move it on. You know how it works.
I know. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me, though. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. Okay, let me move it on.
I see King's Horses, and somebody right after you. I don't know. TikTok just scrolled, but both of you guys are essentially suggesting that hell, we're already tapped, and I need 5,000 likes, folks. Tap your screen, 5,000. Get your boy there. Um, I understand you guys are suggesting that we're taxed already enough. We're taxed up to the hilt. I guess the point I would be trying to make is that if we were taxed at a higher rate and some of these entitlements became automatic for you, even though you're taxed more, you may not notice it. Because let's say you're taxed at 30% or whatever it is now, but you got to pay an additional $200, $300 a month for healthcare at your job. You know, they generally take money out of your check for healthcare. If they tax you another 5% or something, and you now had universal healthcare, you may be able to alleviate that $200 they're taking out of your paycheck every month. So it's a possibility. Not saying in every case this would work, but there is a possibility that you could be taxed and actually be able to get things that you would not be able to get if you're not taxed, such as, let's say, college tuition. There are folks out there like myself. I got 3 college degrees, and for my master's degree, my payments are pretty damn high. If they were to alleviate that and tax me another 5 or 10%, I would bring home a hell of a lot more money being taxed 5 or 10 extra% than I am for those payments. So there's a possibility that you could be taxed higher and still be more beneficial than being taxed lower, because in some cases those entitlements may be things that are currently out of your price range right now. It changes per American, but I'm just simply saying. Okay, let's look in the comments. We'll go with Casey.
I believe that is. Canada doesn't have waiting lists for important surgeries, elective, yes. Hi, Kim. Yeah, during the Obamacare years, they tried to make Canada sound horrible. Casey, good evening.
Carrie.
Carrie, Carrie. Okay, fair enough. I know I'm close. I'm close. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing all right. I noticed something last night on, it was either CBS or MS. PC, we kind of touched on it. I got a few points actually, but this is the first one. Remember how I was talking about that Texas shooting? How I felt like there was an accomplice because of 18-year-old purchasing like $9,000 worth of arms.
Yes, down in Texas. Yeah. What
Did you
about it?
know they stopped cooperating? The police department did with the.
Yes, I got. I have seen even though I was saying I was going to try to talk about something other than guns, but I got CNN on the screen and behind me, and yeah, not only the police stopped cooperating, and the police suggested, well, you have to talk to the district attorney. They're taking questions now, so they cornered the district attorney, and the district attorney is not talking either. So they look really shady down there in Southern Texas. They obviously lied,
That,
and
that's
they knew they were lying when they told the lies. And now it's getting to the point where um,
so
the
my
accountability is unavoidable. Go
my
ahead.
theory in my brain. I believe there was accomplice seems more real to me because of the.
Really?
Yes, there had to be an accomplice. I mean, they were told to stand down. He
So
purchased
you think they're potentially protecting a murderer?
their accomplice within the guy that helped him get all that equipment and do all.
Oh, it may be somebody who is prominent in that city.
Yes, yes, like a maybe
Wow.
government
Now
official.
that's a conspiracy for your ass right there. I normally dismiss a lot of conspiracies I hear, but that one you may be onto something with that.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. I really feel like there's something involved there. What I don't know, but that was one point. There was something else I was wanting to talk to or bring to your
Well,
attention. I can't
well,
remember.
shit. That one right there is a whole story in itself. Damn. But like I said, I normally dismiss a lot of conspiracies I get on here, but
Hmm.
that's possible. And the reason I say that is because they are in terms of being forthcoming, they would get a grade of an F. They are clearly trying their best not to let something come to light. The lack of accountability, either they're trying to protect that police chief or something. They are not coming forward. Even you got both CNN and Tucker Carlson at the same time accusing them of the same shit. That never happens.
That never happened.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. It could be something like that out there.
All right. Well, I just wanted to touch on that. I can't remember the other thing I wanted to talk about, but I'll let you get back to your show, man.
Anytime. Wow, that's interesting though. That yeah.
I mean, like I said, I watched Tucker Carlson yesterday. I like to get news from both sides of the aisle. And I watched Tucker Carlson, and that was the first thing he was talking about is how shady the police are acting and they're not forthcoming. Tonight I got Anderson Cooper on CNN, and he's saying the exact same thing. You don't normally hear that. You don't normally hear Tucker Carlson and Anderson Cooper on the same side of a social issue. Something's wrong there. Why do these shootings explode during the wait a minute, what did that say? Why do these shootings explode during election years? The Cowboys said that's not true. The Mandalay Bay shooting took place in 2017, shortly after Trump was already elected. There was no election going on. The midterms were still well over a year away, and Trump had just got in office. So we have mass casualty events in this country anytime somebody feels like pulling the trigger. It has nothing to do with the election. Unfortunately, they started to speed up where they're happening all the damn time. So maybe from that aspect, but no, it's not related to the election. Nope, the truth never happened on the news. Did anyone hear about the shooting at the cemetery? God damn, I'm trying not to talk about people getting smoked. Unfortunately, in this country, there's so much of that happening that it's hard not to talk about it. But as you can see from the sign behind me, I'm asking about what do folks think of the Democratic Party? What do you think of liberals in general? Mass casualty events just seems to be the order of the day. So if you will, okay, wow. Now, in-house said liberals are racist. I would love to have you in the box to discuss where the hell you got that from. What makes you think? And when you say liberals are racist, racist to who? Who are the victims of liberal racism? I'd love to know that. Liberals are not in touch with reality. Okay, you guys got to elaborate on it. You guys are throwing some stuff out there. I'm biting. You know, if I'm a fish swimming around and you throw that hook in the water, I'm biting. But I need to know what, in regards to liberalism, is out of touch with reality. Another FBI setup meant to shock the country and have Americans give up their guns willingly. Keg M Killer. Now, what you're talking about is the conspiracies that I do tend to run from. You believe that the mass casualty event in Texas, 19 innocent children, two teachers just going to work, all of that was perpetrated by the FBI because they want Americans to give up their guns. You really believe that? That's a conspiracy. That's the kind of stuff I tend to run from. The shooting at the hospital. You're talking about in Tulsa. Yeah, that's another one. Oh, wait a minute. You said at a funeral. Okay, I'm confused. Which shootings are you guys talking about? They happen so damn often. On a scale of 1 to 10, how is Biden doing in your opinion? Ooh. I guess we'd have to judge it based on different areas, economy, social issues, division versus unity, international, 3, maybe 2.5, 3. I'm not going to give them high marks, folks. Just because I'm a liberal, I'm not going to play games and give them high marks. The economy is really bad right now. Now, I've talked to plenty of liberals I had one on the program earlier today who suggested that nothing happening within the American economy is Biden's fault. I submit or subscribe to the theory that if it's happening under your watch, you get blamed for it. Now, we can blame Putin. We can blame OPEC with oil or whatever you want to blame. If Biden got elected and all of a sudden OPEC just decided to start pumping oil out like crazy and gas prices dropped to 99 cents, you're going to tell me Biden would be like, no, it ain't my fault? No, he would be taking credit for it. So to me, if it happens under your watch, you're responsible for it. This is something diverting or trying to say it's not your fault. This is something I used to criticize the MAGA folks or the Trump folks for. Because when Trump was in power, all of the rioting and looting, all of the crime in Chicago and in Democratic areas, it was all of blaming it on the liberal governors, liberal mayors. It wasn't the president's fault. It was all of the folks under him. The minute he's out of office and Biden gets elected, now all of a sudden it's Biden's fault. So I don't believe in trying to divert blame. When you're in there, it's your fault. That's what happens when you cut pipelines. It's a lot more than just that. Stop drilling. He did more than that, but that is a start. Why Republicans have rebel flags? George Cherry 350. That's a hell of a comment. I don't have anything positive to say about that. I would say at best, he asked, why do Republicans have rebel flags? If I wanted to be on the side of the Republicans, at the best, I would say they are insensitive. At the worst, racism. I mean, you know what the history of the damn flag is. All of this, pride and heritage or my family. You know what happened under that flag, no matter what era in American history, whether we're talking about the Klan or talking about the actual Confederates themselves. The history of the Confederate movement is horrible. So at best, you're being insensitive. At worst, you're flying it because of racism. That's my take. You have a different take. You can disagree with my take. That's fine. But that is my take. Let me see. Some Republicans, just like liberals, have fly rainbow flags. You're saying that some Republicans also fly the rainbow flag? Okay, that's fine. But there's no history of oppression and death behind the rainbow flag. We all know that flag is racist, says fly, eagles fly. Well, that's not true. And I'm going to tell you why it's not true. When I was a child, I used to play with the little Dukes of Hazzard toy car, and it had the flag on top of it. Sometimes it's pure ignorance. It ain't all, everybody don't know everybody does not know it's racist. If you live in the South and everybody in your family is telling you it's about pride and heritage and they're not telling you the truth, and you don't get out of the South, no, you don't know it's racist. You believe your family. So everybody don't know. Oil prices are based on futures. Okay. And Wisdom said, fool, but you didn't elaborate. Free speech, baby, all day, every day. I don't censor your comments no matter how critical they are. If you look at my videos on my page, the very first video on my page, the top left-hand corner, the very first video I have pinned is a caller cussing me out completely. I don't censor your comments. You get to speak, but I'm just simply saying when you do, bring your A game. So when you say fool, elaborate on what it is. What does the flag symbolize? Which flag are you talking about, Jason? Are you talking about the Confederate flag? And James Crash, you said it's not racist. Then that's fine listen, anyone flying the Confederate flag or seeing the Confederate flag is going to develop their own opinion. If you don't think it's racist, that is fine. But when you point to the history behind that flag, what is not racist about it? I mean, let's just be honest. Had the Confederates won the war, their actions were going to be racist. Okay, they fought for states' rights. They fought for proper taxation, whatever you want to say that they were actually fighting for. At the end of the day, if they had won the war, racism was going to be part of the way they enacted their laws. And you can see that in how they acted even after losing the war. They still continued doing it. So you can say it's not racism. That's fine. But the folks who were fighting on behalf of that flag were as racist as they could be. That is undeniable. I have a great story about the rebel flag and the army. If you want to come in the box, Tony, I'd love to hear your story. Let's go, Brandon, 18 wheels. Okay. So is racist the flag on the general? Rock Zitter, whatever that, I'm just simply saying the folks who created and flew that flag had a very low opinion of African Americans. That is a historical fact. You can change the flag to mean whatever you want it to mean. But when that flag was created, the creators of that flag, fighting under that flag, the rebel battle flag, or whatever you want to call it, the folks who created and fought under that flag, they had a very low opinion of African Americans. There's no denying that. There's absolutely no denying that. Yeah, I got a tattoo, the flag, because of Dukes of Hazzard, which is sad. Well, like I said, when I was a child, I had that Dukes of Hazzard car. I remember having a little one you could wind up and put it on the ground and it would roll and jump ramps and things like that. I wasn't told anything different about that flag either. I mean, Ludacris, the rapper, performed a concert, I believe, with that flag on him. I mean, a lot of folks did not know. Let's be clear. If you can believe the FBI, like the guy in the comments was suggesting, is setting up mass casualty events, you'd have to be willing to believe that the way we've been taught about our history has not always been true. So a lot of us grew up thinking things like the Indians and the Native Americans, because they're not even Indians, the whole name is wrong, but the Native Americans sat down with the Pilgrims or Christopher Columbus. All of our history has pockmarks in it of things that are not true. The Confederate flag is one of them. It's just one of them. So if you grew up as a child in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, chances are you were taught some shit that is simply not correct. And there's nothing wrong with knowing that now. Political TikTok. Now, this could be interesting. I love the name.
I said free speech. You get your point across. I'm not going to censor or block no matter what comes out your mouth. Unless TikTok does it. I can't control that. Political TikTok. What's going on this evening?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
All right. Yeah, I guess you were asking about, what we thought about liberals. I mean, I consider myself a Democrat, maybe a moderate Democrat, not a far left Democrat. But I would say the biggest thing I've seen is it seems as if the Democrat Party, and it's just my opinion, is the only one for democracy. I mean, when you look at what the Republicans tried to do to overturn the election, that to me was treasonous. I mean, what we saw on January 6th and other things like that, I think at this point it's beyond policy and everything like that. It's really saving the democracy of our country. And
so you do believe January 6th was an attempt to overthrow the country, overthrow democracy?
Yes, I believe it was a domestic.
Okay, fair enough. Now I will say this. I've said it earlier in this broadcast, is that I don't believe that Trump actually is a Republican. But he's taking the reins of the party because they like the direction he's taking the party, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think technically, if you put his credentials on paper, he's not a Republican. If you were to describe Trump, do not say the word Trump. Do not say his name. Do not say MAGA. You're just describing a citizen, and you describe the aspects of Trump. Most people would say, no, that is not a Republican.
No.
So. Yeah. So, and like I said, go ahead.
The authoritarian. I mean, he wants them to follow him tooth and nail. And if they don't, they're rhinos, they're this, they're that. I mean, when with the election, like you always say, he only went to certain states, and it was all really, a lot of them were black cities like Detroit and Atlanta, and it just seemed like he was trying to create this narrative that basically those people votes don't count. Somehow dead people started voting out of nowhere, but everywhere else across the United States, they were all good and well. So
yeah. Yeah, and I had somebody in the comments mention 2000, and somebody just mentioned it now. Recliner Papa mentioned 2000 Mules. Said people need to watch it. As anytime that comes up, the first thing I always do is I grab my notepad here. I'll watch 2000 Mules a half a dozen times. I got notes here from the particular movie, and I'll just tell you just simply take liberals out of the picture. Take the way liberals view 2000 News completely out of the picture. Let's talk about OAN, Newsmax, and Fox News. Have you noticed that most right-wing networks are not even talking about 2000 News? They're not saying, well, see, here's the proof. Even the right-wing networks are not viewing 2000 News as the know-all, end-all. They don't talk about it on Fox News at all.
because
Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, even Sean Hannity, they're not talking about 2000 Mules. So that should tell you all you need to know. But go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I believe that they know that the election wasn't stolen. There may have been some voter fraud, but it wasn't at the level that would have changed the outcome of the election. I mean, they in some places they counted it 3 times, they've counted it whatever. I mean, when you had the Black Lives Matter, COVID, and all these other things, it just went against Trump. It was a perfect recipe to get people out to vote. They didn't necessarily like Joe Biden, but they didn't like Trump. And that's what it came down to. And I think if he would have just stepped away and said, okay, he won, and then I'll come back. But then just to say, oh, I'm coming back because they stole it from me,
Yeah.
I think that's why he's going to lose again. But that's just me.
Well, in NGA Brill Coleman in the comments, you said who owns Fox News. I can tell you this: whoever owns Fox News, they owned it when Trump was constantly coming there and calling there. They haven't changed ownership. When Trump was constantly calling into Fox News all times of day and night, calling into Fox and Friends, calling into the Hannity show, everybody from Kimberly Guilfoyle, who used to work, I mean, several members of the Fox team is now on the Trump administration or vice versa. So if you're suggesting that somebody from the liberal side of the aisle owns Fox, then why did Trump get in bed with them so deeply? That's a problem you need to think about because the ownership of Fox has not changed since Trump got elected. So whoever owned it now, they owned it then too. But go ahead, political TikTok.
Well, I guess the last thing I'll say is, like I said, I just think we're at a point where it's beyond policy and politics at this point. That we have the Democratic Party, which and voter access, wants more people to get involved. And you have the other side that wants to limit access to the ballot box and wants to create more hurdles for people to vote. I mean, my grandmother votes by mail. Now I'm in Ohio, but she votes by mail and been doing it for I don't know how long. And if they had it the way that they want it, it would be less likely for her, 80-year-old woman to get up, go down, stand in the line for an hour, definitely in some of these places. So they would get the perfect recipe of what they want. And the simple fact of it is I think they're an authoritarian party. And until they stand up to Donald Trump, that's why I love people like Liz Cheney, Adam King, because they stand up for what's right. Because we have to put the country first. Then we can talk policy. Then we can talk healthcare. Then we can talk. But if they just start saying, "Oh no, these votes don't count," what's the point?
Well, it looks like the folks who stand up are going to be knocked down by the Trump train. Let me ask you this question. This is something that's quite interesting because you mentioned January 6th. Here's Johnny, a frequent viewer of the program. He stated, if you watch the videos from January 6th, it mostly looks like a guided tour. So when you watch the videos of the folks inside of the Capitol building, it mostly looks like any other weekend when folks are going on a guided tour inside the Capitol building. What do you think of a comment like that?
I think it's. I put some people, you have one side where they're busting in windows, They were forcing. Then you have other places where they were already somewhat in. So these guards started thinking, why try to stop them now? I mean, hundreds of them are already in there. But no, going into Nancy Pelosi's office, putting their feet up. Trump told them that we're going to go down there. He said, if you don't fight like hell, you won't have a country anymore. That's what he said, and he knew what he was doing, and it's just sad that people still support him. I just think at this point, it's not if you like Biden or don't like Biden. It's about standing up for the democracy of our country, and I think that's what the 2024 election is going to be about. One side is about it was stolen, and the other side is it wasn't stolen. And if Trump gets back in there, I just think it's going to be a sad day.
Well, as Chris Christie said, the only way the Republican Party can get back to winning is they got to get over what happened in the past and quit hashing out the grievances. But I do need to move it on, man. I do need to move it on. But it definitely is a pleasure always. You have a good evening. All right. Okay.
You guys said that the man said, I can't stop laughing. The man said, if you look at the videos, it looks like a guided tour. Now, I do agree that there is clear evidence that the police let some of those folks in. However, if you look at the videos of what took place, I cannot for the life of me see a guided tour. When you look at the videos of folks being let in, that looks like a guided tour. However, when you look at the police fighting with protesters over the barricades, folks breaking out windows, there are videos of folks climbing the walls. There's no way. I mean, folks going around talking about hang Mike Pence, a guided tour. It depends on what videos you look at. I'll just say that if I wanted to make it look like a guided tour, I will say that there are some videos from what took place that day that could be made to look like a guided tour. All of the videos are not violent, but there's a hell of a lot of them that are. So if you say it looks like a guided tour, that only works when you discard a lot of the video footage. I don't know. That was kind of crazy to hear that. Okay, let me move on. Tony, this is okay. I got some new folks in here. I'm gonna give you guys a chance to get your.
I want to get to most of these folks because I always like to hear from you callers as well as my regular viewers. Tony, good evening. This is the first time I believe we've spoken, right?
Yeah, it is, man.
Okay. The question
I just started watching your show. Sorry.
I'm glad to have you here. Okay, I'll just give you my spiel and then you can jump in wherever you like. The purpose of the whole show is I made it clear I'm just really tired of talking about children losing their lives in mass casualty events. So tonight I'm gonna sacrifice myself with a name like mine. My preferred audience is MAGA. I make that clear. Most of my audience is MAGA, but I'm asking, what is your opinion to yourself and the viewers? What is your opinion of Democrats? What is your view of liberals in general? Go.
Man, that's kind of a loaded question.
Then give me your load.
I don't know that it's wise necessarily for me to answer those things, but here's the deal, man. I think there are way too many people getting way too excited about too much crap.
Give me examples.
Well, I mean, just like the last guy that you had on. He had the Democrat talking points down. Yeah, I'm a Republican, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the Republican talking points,
okay.
Right? And I think that's why there's such a divide in this country right now politically, because nobody's listening to each other. Everybody is just spewing out talking points, right? We can't get past all the crap until we stop and listen to each other.
That would help.
And I think
that would certainly help.
I think it's the same thing whether you're talking about politics or race relations or LGBTQ. They want to be heard. Somebody needs to listen to them, right?
Okay.
That's how you have a conversation. And
fair enough. I agree.
I think there's too many people that just want to talk and don't want to listen. And I've got my opinion about about some of the stuff that I see going on in the country, and I think we're going really in a really bad direction. And I'm not talking about what people are saying. I'm talking about what I'm witnessing day to
What you
day.
witnessing? Let
Yeah.
me ask you this question. Now, I know you said you lean right, so I'm thinking I already know the answer, but I have to ask you. Under the previous administration, how did you feel about the direction the country was headed in?
I felt a lot better than I do now.
Okay.
Um, and I'll tell you why. I didn't feel better when I watched Trump stand up and give those ridiculous ass speeches that he used to give, where he would,
Okay.
I mean, he would just say the most off the wall shit. And pardon my
Okay.
language. Um, but but when you sit back and you watch the fruit of the labor, I
Okay.
think that was good. There was a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of people that had employment like they'd never had before. There were a lot of people that were making a lot of money that they hadn't made before.
Let me ask you this, and I guess folks in the audience, you can participate if you like. But I'll ask you, since you said you didn't like the speeches, but you liked the policies. If you had to give as a whole, not partial, but as a whole for President Trump and his presidency, if you had to give Trump a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F, what letter grade would you give Trump, rating him as a whole?
As a whole, man, I would probably give him like a B minus, maybe a
Okay.
B plus, right? Because he
Okay.
wasn't perfect. But at the end of the day, I feel like even though I didn't like the way that he would talk and the way he would give speeches, I feel like his heart was really in it. And I feel like he really cared about Americans. Not the political crap, but day to day, everyday Americans like me and you. Right?
Okay, fair. I'm looking at the letters coming in, and okay, because you gave them a B minus, and most of the folks are grading them B plus. It's somewhere near what you're suggesting. I've had videos where I asked, "Do you believe Trump is the GOAT, the greatest of all time?" And I've had a lot of my MAGA followers say that, yeah, he was one of the best presidents ever. It's interesting to see that, and then when you ask what the grades is, very few people are giving him an A. Folks believe he was the greatest president, but when you ask them to grade him, I'm looking at like I said, I'm looking at the comments coming in, and my audience is predominantly MAGA. And I've seen a few A's and A pluses in there. One person gave him multiple A's, but yeah, the overwhelming majority of people are not giving him an A plus, and that's crazy because I often hear MAGA suggest that he's the best president ever.
Man, that's a movement. It's a talking point, right? A lot of people get together, they get riled up, they drink a little beer, and they shout and they do all of that shit, right? But when
Right.
you sit back, clear headed, and you really think about what's going on around you, I mean, to me, a B, B plus, B minus, somewhere in there, that's a pretty darn good grade.
Certainly in the device of America. That's a really good. I'm gonna let you continue, but I just want you to respond to this. The Looker 66 wants me to ask you, what do you believe makes Trump? Ask him what makes him feel like Trump liked America, what or loved America. What about Trump makes you believe that he loved his country or loves his country in the present tense?
Okay, so I've already said I didn't like some of his speeches, and I didn't. He's a gruff, kind of a hard hitting kind of guy, and if he wants you to know he did something, he's going to tell you 85 times.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I said, the end result, right? To me, the only thing that matters is the outcome. And when he was president, 2016 to 2020, I was better off financially more years than I wasn't. That's what matters to me.
All right.
He took a lot of heat from a lot of the Democrats in politics, and I don't think it was all justified, though some of it probably was. Um, and so when I look at that, I would much rather see those yahoos up there fighting and us living in harmony and pretty well doing what we do, um, and getting by every day and everybody making a little money and they're able to do a few things right. And it's not just all paycheck to paycheck and all of that crap.
Okay.
That's what matters to me. Now, that's not all Trump. There's the Congress, the Senate. They both play a hand in that. Um, so those parts in the government have to kind of be working harmoniously too. Uh,
Okay. Well,
he got us in a good spot, I think.
okay. Now, someone's okay. What about the argument that he inherited a good economy?
Um, he inherited that from Obama.
Yeah, I mean, Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017. I don't recall America doing that bad. The housing market was not bad. You weren't paying a ridiculous amount of money at the pump, goods and services. We were not doing that bad in January of 2017. Remember when Obama got elected in 2008, I remember hearing Newt Gingrich specifically suggest that if Obama gets elected, he's going to raise gas to $5 a gallon, tax everybody at 70%, take away everybody's guns, and turn us into socialist Greece. Now, at the time, Greece was a failure. Greece has recovered, and now they're using Venezuela. But when Trump ran, or when Obama ran, they were saying he was going to turn us into socialist Greece. Now, I look back at the Obama years, and I don't remember the socialist 2010s in America. So that's why I have to ask, what about the argument that Trump inherited a pretty well running America from Obama?
Well, think about it like this: everything that goes up must come down, and everything that goes down when it hits the ground is going to come back up. It's like a
Okay.
bouncing ball, right?
Okay.
And I've lived through some of Obama's less than desirable economy. I started two business. One of them failed horribly. One of them
What
I actually
year? What
did
years?
okay with.
What years are we talking about? What years? If you remember.
2008, 2008 through 2013.
Okay. 2008, Obama wasn't even in office yet. He didn't get inaugurated till January 2009. So you're
Right.
crediting some of that as Bush.
Well, no, I agree. I agree. Some of that is kind of fall over from the previous administration. Some of it was some of his doing. You know, I didn't care for Obama that much, but you know, I think Obama was probably. I think Obama probably is a pretty good guy. I'd like to meet him in person because he seems like a heck of a guy to hang out with. Um,
Okay.
I just
Letter
didn't agree
grade.
with
I
policy.
asked you. Hang on. Hold on a second. I asked you in regards to Trump. I'll ask since you clearly remember the Obama years. You gave Trump a B minus. What would you give Obama?
Um, I would be Obama. I'd give him a C to a C minus.
A C
Mainly,
to a
it's
C
not
minus.
that he did such a horrible job. I just didn't like his politics.
Okay.
Yeah, C
All
to a
right.
C minus.
Okay. All right. I guess that's not terrible considering he was from the opposing party.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the deal. Here's what I remember, man. I'm 50 years old, and here's what I have always known, and it hasn't changed until the last few years, and it's this. Every year, or every 4 years, we have an election. On the lead up to that election for about 18 months, the whole world goes freaking nuts. And everybody starts pointing fingers and calling each other ugly names and all of that stuff. And then at the end of the day, they put everything to a vote, and Americans historically are much more centered than either Republicans or Democrats. So at the
Well,
end
yeah,
of the
because
day,
we're not being paid to be on one side of the aisle. They're getting paid to be that way. We're actually suffering from that. So yeah, we're going to be more centered than they are. We're on a different playing field.
yeah, because we want nice and smooth.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, I come from a time when my dad worked at the same place for 43 years,
yeah, those
and
times are gone. Those times are gone, though.
yes, sir, they are. They
Yeah,
absolutely are.
they're gone.
Um, and so he voted in a way. My dad was a staunch Democrat, by the way. It broke his heart when I told him I wasn't a Democrat, but
Wow.
he wouldn't talk to me for about 2 months.
We okay. I'm because obviously Trump was pretty controversial. When did you tell your dad you were not a Democrat? Was it when Trump ran for office?
When he asked me if I voted for Bush,
Okay. Well, Bush was kind of controversial too, but not like Trump. Okay,
no,
fair enough. Fair enough.
actually,
Well, listen, go ahead. I'll
fun,
give you the last word. I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
funny thing. Before my dad passed away back in 2016, he had talked to me about a month before he passed away and said, I'm thinking I might vote for that Trump. He seems like he's got a few ideas. And then he passed away literally like a month later. So, yeah.
I that may have a hidden message to it. I'm not going to go there, but it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's been great talking to you, man. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Absolutely, and come back anytime, man. You was certainly a pleasure.
Will do.
All
Appreciate you.
right, okay, fair enough.
Something real quick in the comments, folks. When I asked that gentleman, what letter grade would he give Obama? I think he said a C minus. A lot of folks in the comments gave Obama an F. I saw F minuses. So I always have to follow up a question when I see something unusual. If you're giving Obama an F minus, I would have to ask, what grade would you give Biden? Because you cannot go below an F minus. So are you suggesting that the Obama administration was worse than Biden? I mean, I see a lot of folks gave Obama an F minus. That's as literally as low as you can get. You really believe his presidency was that bad for Obama? So then if you gave Obama an F minus, what would you give President Biden? And John Gillen says Biden is a puppet. Every single politician that runs for president, with the exception maybe of Trump, is referred to as a puppet. Bush was a puppet for Cheney. Obama was a puppet for the Clintons. We hear this all the time. I don't know where to go with that. Don, to me, Don, okay, you're suggesting that Obama was a C and Biden was an F. Being a liberal, I don't know if I want to go that low as far as being in the cellar, but I do believe that the Biden administration, whatever grades you give Trump, or better yet, whatever grades you give Obama and whatever grades you give Biden, they should not be the same grade. Now, that's not to say that the Biden administration may not turn things around. I think it's highly unlikely, but I wouldn't have a problem with anybody giving Biden and Obama the same grade. And I see folks in here are giving Obama an F minus, which means that Biden cannot do any worse than Obama. That just does not make any sense to me. What Don did is probably more likely of what I would agree with or what I would expect. I mean, the notion that Obama, his presidency was so bad that no president can do worse than that. How? You're paying almost $6 and $7 a gallon for gas right now. You're seeing worse. You're currently seeing worse than the Obama administration right now. So how can Obama get an F minus? That doesn't make it. And I agree with what you're saying, Fly Eagles. You're saying it's just pure hatred for the man. Yeah, I mean, because you're literally living through worse than the Obama administration right now. You're living through worse. So how could Obama get an F minus other than from just pure dislike of the guy? That doesn't make sense to me. And somebody said, why did Obama win twice? Yeah, that's a good.
So I do agree, Obama a C. Okay, just because you're right and he's a left wing politician doesn't mean you cannot judge the guy fairly. I wouldn't give Trump an F minus. I think there are plenty of presidents that did worse than him. An F minus. Wow. Okay. Gen Xer, good evening.
Hey, how do I turn my camera on? I want my camera on.
Fair enough, yo. Picture man. Okay, go to the bottom left. You see those two red and blue looking people that's down there? Click that, and that should give you the option of turning your camera on. There we go. Handsome gentleman. Good evening.
Okay. All
Okay,
right. Well, shit. Right on, dude. Hey, man. Before we start, let me say I'm a conservative, and I've been watching you. And dude, I think you're very intelligent.
thank
I
you.
totally enjoy the things you bring to the conversation. And right on.
Take your time. I'm not going to interrupt you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. I do appreciate that, and I make no qualms about it. My preferred audience is MAGA. A lot of the intelligence comes from talking to you guys. You guys help keep me abreast on things that if I just simply watch CNN, MSNBC, and liberal media, I might never hear. So it's always a pleasure talking to you guys. If I can enlighten you, if I can entertain you, or God forbid, even educate you, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Man, this is your chicken. I'm screwing it. Hit me with the question.
Okay, the question we're asking tonight, because I am so, I guess, for lack of a better term, disgusted with talking about the loss of American lives through mass casualty events. So I'm going to put myself on the line and become the sacrificial lamb and ask a happier question, which is, what do you guys think of? What is your opinion of liberals, such as yours truly or any other? What is your opinion of the Democratic Party? That's the question we're asking tonight. Just as a refresher course from talking about Americans being killed for no reason at all. I'm just trying to find something better to conversate over. So the question is, what is your opinion of liberals?
Okay, that's a loaded question
Okay.
because we're talking. What do I think about liberals, progressive liberals, or what do I think about moderate Democrats? A moderate Democrat is a far cry from a liberal progressive.
True. Well,
Um,
okay. Let me give you some liberals in general. Then let's say
okay.
okay. Let's say President Biden. What do you think of the liberalism in President Biden? The currently, not the 90s, 80s, or I'm talking currently, the liberal that Biden presents today, the policies that he supports right now. What do you think of that?
I think President Biden, and I've watched your forum, and people try to get away from it. I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
I think that President Biden is being controlled or answered by everyone other than President Biden. I'm a Gen Xer. I believe in my president. I believe in my military, and I believe that I should respect um, my president, my commander in chief. But
Okay.
what I think about President Biden is, to answer your question, I don't think he's fit to lead the country. I think he's. I'm sorry, man. I think he's. Man,
Elaborate. What do you
yeah.
believe? What do you believe that is wrong with the man that would make him unfit to run the country?
He's got dementia. He several of it. He pooped his pants he pooped his pants at the Vatican in front of the Pope. How do you poop in front of the Pope?
Well,
Come
you do. What wasn't it George H.W. that threw up at a Japanese meeting or something like that, vomited right there at the
on.
meeting?
George W. can throw up a million times. He did not release his bowels in front of a Pope.
I
Come on.
cannot believe no pun intended, but I cannot believe I stepped in that shit by letting you get that out. Okay, all right. Someone put in the comments, Witchy, looks like Witchy Major said that President Biden is not a liberal. How do you think? Do you take Biden as not being a liberal?
No, Biden was a moderate Democrat. Absolutely.
I mean,
I
right
was a
now, in
moderate
20,
Democrat for years. I'm now a conservative.
okay.
He was a moderate Democrat for years, and when the liberals figured out his condition with dementia, the man's got dementia. We can argue that, we can debate that, whatever, but they latched onto that, and I think that
Well, here's
that's
the
something
problem.
we need
Okay,
to take a look at.
let's say what you're saying, because a lot of right wingers, a lot of my folks, my MAGA preferred audience I like talking to, they tend to agree with you and
45,
suggest.
baby.
Yeah, 45. A lot of my audience also suggests that Biden has dementia, which I have to ask. For those who often make fun of the guy, if you think an elderly person has mental illness, and keep in mind the Republican Party is suggesting that mental illness is why we're having mass casualty events. Why make fun of a guy? And I'm not talking about you directly, sir. I'm just talking about in general.
Okay.
There are a lot of members of the Republican Party that make fun of Biden's
No, that's
supposed
fair.
dementia. So I would have to ask the question: if you truly believe Biden has dementia, how does it look to be making fun of an elderly guy with a mental illness? Because there's a lot of MAGA folks that do that.
To make fun or to make light of an elderly guy leading our country with mental illness is disgusting. I think that whether you're Republican, Democrat, whatever, it's disgusting because we're in such a divide right now that we need to figure out things we agree upon. One being our leadership. Okay, Joe Biden, not a fan now. But you know what? They say he didn't accomplish anything in his 46 years. Again, I'm a stone fucking conservative, but the man gave a shit enough to
To
involve
give 46
himself.
years of his life. He gave a shit enough to give 46 years of
Yeah,
his life.
no, I agree. I agree 100%. Whether I agree with his position or not, that's irrelevant. He
Right.
gave a shit enough about his life to dedicate his life to doing shit that I disagree with. You know what? That's what being American's about.
I love that.
100%.
I love that. Now, let me say this. Somebody put in the comments that Biden needs to take the cognitive test. Now, my spiel on the cognitive test, whether Biden has dementia like this gentleman is saying or whatever the case may be, this reminds me of the old Rocky IV movie when Adrian told Rocky when fighting Drago, you can't win. You can't win. If Biden takes the cognitive test and he passes it, then you're just going to discredit the doctor that gave it to him. Or you're going to discredit the test. It's kind of like
Right.
when they asked Obama to present his birth certificate. If you don't believe something, or the same thing with the election, if you believe the election is stolen, no presented counter evidence is going to satisfy you. And it's the same thing. If you believe Biden has dementia and you're watching him up there stuttering and not knowing where he's at and shit like that, it doesn't matter what that cognitive test comes back with. You're going to say
Yep.
it's wrong. Either the cognitive test has to show he has dementia or it was not given right. That's going to be the only way. So there's no benefit to President Biden in taking a cognitive test. If I was his advisor, I would tell him, why would you do that? You can't win in that. The only outcome is going to be negative. But go ahead.
My friend, there is one word to back your argument, to back your perspective, to back what you're thinking. There's one word to back it.
Okay.
Facts.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. And I will say this too. What was that? Here's Johnny said Trump took the cognitive test. Yeah, but Biden also released his taxes. So it is what it is. Certain folks don't want to do certain things. Trump believed that the liberals had a negative view of his taxes, and he believed that if I release my taxes, I can't win. They're going to find something in my corporate history that they're going to use and target. That's the
Mm-hmm.
exact same advice for Biden. He can't win.
Mm-hmm.
He can't win. Would you, if you were the Gen Xer, do you agree with what I'm saying? If that was your candidate and you were advising him, would you advise him to take that cognitive test, knowing that the Republican Party believes he has dementia?
100%. I agree with you.
Okay,
100%.
fair enough.
But let me throw this in. You asked me what I think about the Democratic Party, and let's let's look at this. There are two sides to this. The Democratic Party, moderate Democrats are not liberal progressives.
True.
They are not.
True.
I have been a Democrat, or I was a Democrat for years. But when the noble fight, which I backed, my mom, I was raised with a single mom. When that whole thing became a aggressive
Hang on a second.
fight against,
Hold on.
when it became a fight, let me finish the thought.
Okay. Okay. I just saw something really funny.
When it became a thought
Go ahead.
of against, good.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry. I was
going to let you finish your point. I just saw a comment that Devin's 1975 in the comments said, "Please get off my For You page." I just thought that was hilarious and it threw me off. But go ahead and make your point. That just was very funny to me. But go ahead.
Well, when the Democratic fight, because I was a Democrat for years. When the Democratic fight for equality, my mom was a single woman raising two boys. When that became an attack on, when that became an attack on, I went blank again.
Oh, you starting to sound like Biden. You starting to sound like Biden. You okay over there?
Oh, that's right. I'm back, dude.
You got to take a shit.
Hey, when the attack on when the attack on people became an attack on masculinity and what men need to do, that changed my perspective on Democrat Republican. It really did.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, listen, there are things in our lives that can lead us to switch parties. I will say this, in my opinion, maturity can lead you easily to the Republican Party because as you get mature, you tend to have gotten your life together. You've had to work and earn your own money and giving tax money to entitlements and shit like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I can, and if you notice, the vast majority of the Republican Party are older folks. Whereas the younger folks tend to go liberal.
Now you're calling me old, man. Now you're calling me old. Yeah, no,
So
I see
am
how
I.
it goes. That's cool. I'm old. Fuck around, find out. Yeah, I'm old.
So am I. If I let my beard grow out, we'd be singing Santa Claus is a black man. Look, let me move on, man. Let me move on.
Now you're bringing race into it. So what? I'm white. Well, okay, I got you. I love
White
you.
is
I
all
got
right
you.
with me. White is all right. Hey, come on back through anytime, man. It's such a pleasure. And no more Biden impressions. No more Biden impressions.
Hey, man, I got you, brother. So what were you saying?
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Let me get to the comments. That was kind of funny. If you don't vote for Biden, you're not black, stated by Biden. Yeah. I can give you my lengthy spiel. I did a video. And if you go to the hand, and by the way, let me make it clear to you folks, for guys who are new, and I appreciate those who are following the broadcast. If you go to the Handsome Liberal on YouTube, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this. If you go to the Handsome Liberal on YouTube, all of these broadcasts we do, the next morning the entire broadcast is there, so you'll be able to hear the callers and all of that. But I have a video on there titled "Trump Never Said Anything Racist," and I give you a really good, I guess I would say, rebuttal to Biden saying vote for me if you ain't black. So if you will, when you get some free time, it's about a 10-minute video, and it's Trump sitting down with Bill O'Reilly. So I'm not giving you one of the things I always do, because when I talk to this audience, my preferred audience is MAGA. I make it clear. I will never give you anything in relation to Trump that has been cited from CNN or MSNBC or any of that. I always make sure when I come to this audience, I come correct.
I come from either right-wing sources or I come with video of Trump saying something himself. Because I know you're not gonna take a CNN or a MSNBC clip. Even though I took a 2,000 Mules, even though I watched Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium, even though I watched Sheriff Joe Arpaio try to prove that Obama was, I'm willing to accept, but I don't give that to you. But if you get a chance, the Handsome Liberal on YouTube, Trump never said anything racist. Put that in there. You'll see that video, and then you can come back and holler at me. You say you're liberal, but beg to differ. User 651, give me an example. What makes you think I'm not a liberal? Just because I don't sit here and kiss Biden's ass or bang Trump the entire broadcast. I pointed out things about Trump I don't like. I pointed out things about Biden or the Liberal Party that I do like. Biden is not doing a good job. I'm not going to fucking make Biden sound like he's doing a great job. If Obama was in office, performing the way Obama did when he was in office, you probably wouldn't think that. But Biden is doing a really bad job. I mean, is it against the rules for me to say that with a name? Does a liberal have to celebrate Biden? He's not doing a good job, at least from my humble opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he's doing a good job. I'm a smart ass, and Quigs, I do see you in there.
I'm a smart ass, got the lead. So welcome back to the page. We do talk often. I'm a smart ass. Good evening.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Trying to give a different take on it. We've talked about folks losing their lives to mass casualty events so much. And while we were talking last night about gun laws and what happened in Texas, somebody decided to have a party out in Tulsa. So I'm trying to move the dialogue on and not talk about guns so much. I'm sure somebody will get shot tonight. We can talk about that tomorrow. But right now we're asking a question. What is your opinion of the Democratic Party? What is your observation? What do you think of liberals in general?
What I think of liberals in general? I
Yeah.
mean, I'll start off with I've broken away from identifying as a Republican, but I'm a conservative. I think there's a difference between identifying as a Republican as opposed to identifying as a conservative, the same as identifying as a Democrat to identifying as a liberal. I think
Hold on one second. I'll talk about it in a little bit. Okay, go ahead. You were talking about the difference between. I had somebody come in, but you talked about the difference between identifying as a Republican versus a conservative.
And the same goes for as opposed to identifying as a liberal to identifying as a Democrat. Now, I mean, you make yourself the handsome liberal, but I mean, in my opinion, you should be the handsome Democrat, because the Democrat, the ideals that I see for a Democrat is more along the lines of what JFK did with the Democratic Party.
Okay.
What we have now with the Democratic Party being, dubbed as liberals, the liberal ideology is it's just not good. I don't like the direction the liberals want to take us. They want to, I'm going to touch on this as a topic and then I'm going to run right by it. But, they're trying to take our guns away from us. They're trying to, they're showing that they're more concerned about other countries instead of ours.
What about when Trump, after the Mandalay Bay shooting in 2017, suggested taking away guns first without even giving folks due process?
That one, I don't remember seeing him say that. But I mean, if he's one for taking, that would make him kind of a hypocrite on that part. Because I mean, he himself is, all of our politicians alike and whatnot are protected by armed men. So to want to take our guns away, crime, they would have to kind of follow suit themselves. They want. It's almost like what is good for thee is not good for thou, I think, kind of something.
And I've heard folks say that before. I'm gonna see if I can.
Doesn't make sense.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me turn this down. I'm actually, because I did it before, because you're not the first person I've heard or talked to that said they've never heard him say that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this and I want you to listen to it if I can get my screen in order here. And you tell me. You people. Okay. What the hell?
What do I need?
Okay.
But I tell you.
All right. Let me rewind it. This is on YouTube, and it's titled Trump tells senators you're afraid of the NRA. So I want you to listen to this.
Oh, I've seen this one.
So I'm 21 with a handgun, but I can get this weapon at 18. I don't know. So I was just curious as to what you did in your bill.
We didn't address it, Mr. President, but I think
why? Because you're afraid of the NRA. Chris, did you have something?
No. I think you underestimate the power of the gun lobby.
No, I'll tell you what. And they do have great power. I agree with that. They have great power over you people. They have less power over me. What do I need? But I tell you, they are well-meaning. And I said to them very nice, I said, fellas, we got to do something. We can't keep restricting, and we have to do what's right. When it comes to mental health and other issues, I said, we have to do what's right. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. He had a lot of firearms. They saw everything. To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
Okay, now that was a piece of him from The Guardian. Now he's talking about taking your guns without even giving you due process. Did you hear that?
Then give due process.
Right. So he's going to take your guns without even giving you a chance to appeal or anything. You get due process after losing your weapons.
Right. Well, that's an answer to, that's one way to go about it. I don't wholeheartedly agree with Trump saying that, but I think he was more addressing the NRA on that with the control they have, because he did mention in the very beginning about changing the high capacity round weapons, changing that to 21 instead of 18. He said that, if I'm not mistaken, he said that in the very beginning. So that I agree with. So
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you got a president, and I see your comment there, Billy 56, saying play the tape again. I'll let this man get his comments in, and when we're in a break between the next caller, because the video is only a minute long, I will play it again. But I guess the point I'm trying to get across is just simply look at what he said there. Can you imagine a liberal suggesting that we fight with the NRA, because he made it clear that his own senators were afraid of the NRA? And then he suggested taking away the guns first and giving due process later. Now, I understand strongly that my audience loves Trump, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're welcome here for that. But I do believe that folks are giving him a pass because he's Trump. If a liberal said what he just said, I don't think it would have been viewed the same way.
Well, but I'm not going to make excuses, and I'm not going to make a pass. Trump took things on a lot more head on than Democrats in recent history have.
So you're okay with liberals taking the NRA head on?
Take them on, because there's a gun we talked the other night about, I say it's a household, most of our problems are starting in the home, and then branching once those kids become adults,
So if a politician takes on the NRA, why would a politician take on the NRA other than to do one thing, to limit gun rights? There's no other reason. The NRA is about as strong in favor of the Second Amendment as they come. So if you're suggesting that a politician should take on the NRA, you do realize they're coming after the Second Amendment. That's the only reason you would take on the NRA.
Yeah, but he said Trump in the very beginning there said too that the NRA pushes a lot of things. So, like he said in that video, from the way I kind of interpreted it, is he was like wanting to take the NRA on to change it to 21 period for weapons.
Okay, so that's still infringing on gun rights. I'm just simply saying no matter how you view it or interpret it or spin it, at the end of the day, the only reason you take on the NRA is to take away somebody's gun rights. Now, you're talking about going from 18 to 21, which means you're taking away gun rights from 18, 19, 20, and 20-year-olds. But the only reason you would take on the NRA is to take away somebody's gun rights. And that's a Republican president that's suggesting that.
But on the flip side of that, we have two things. We have, you can join the military at 18 and fire a weapon, but you can't you have to wait till you're 21 before you can legally drink. You know,
Okay.
so okay, so we're in free. You know, it's somebody's toes are going to get stepped on, but with trying to make a solution to curb a problem, I personally don't see an issue, and I'm a conservative. I personally don't see an issue that holding that until 21. You can't purchase a firearm. You can't anything that goes pew pew. You shouldn't be able to purchase till you're 21. If that would curb and save, you know, in this instance, what was it, 17 kids that passed away? If doing something like that would save 17 kids, then by all means,
Okay,
do
let me say this. I gave with your interpretation credit, but make no mistake about it. That meeting they're having is him discussing guns because we had just had the Mandalay Bay shooting. That guy was obviously well over 21. So your interpretation that he was talking about raising the age from 18 to 21 actually is not true because that was not even in the conversation at that point. There was no young person that had the guy who committed that Mandalay Bay shooting. I believe that guy was like 40 or 50 years old. That's why
but
Trump is talking mental health. He's not talking raising the age. But I'm just simply saying the only reason you suggest that someone fight with the NRA is you're coming for somebody's gun rights. And you're saying that it's okay to some. I guess my only point I'm trying to make is that I have a hard time believing that that same speech coming from a liberal would be viewed with such optimism.
it's a solution. It's not taking them away completely or altogether like what's being talked now. It's just it's prolonging it. So instead of being
Okay,
18,
if a liberal said exactly what you just said right now, it's not taking them away completely. It's just the right would go nuts at a statement like that. It's not taking it away completely. It's just a solution. They would go nuts if they gave that exact same quote you did. If any liberal said that, the right would go nuts on that.
right, I'm trying to read some of the comments here, but the Mandalay Bay thing, that was the Las
Yes,
Vegas thing, right?
yes.
Oh, but see that too. I mean, to pull back in retrospect, you know, now that we have a more recent issue that's fresh in our minds, that
Okay.
Mandalay thing, if I remember correctly, there was like security footage of that guy rolling like big bags of
Yeah.
something
He took
upstairs.
a hell of a lot of air. He took as many AR-15s in that room as he could get.
All right, but it was all big black bags, and nobody paid the wiser to it. You
Well, he
know, so
was very wealthy. He was a wealthy man. So when you're rich, people don't tend to say anything to you, even if they think it's suspicious. They don't say nothing to you.
right. Well, it's you. Well, see, I don't remember hearing him being wealthy either, but
He was
or
wealthy. Yeah, he was
right.
wealthy. He
You
was
know, but
wealthy.
there's as many red flags to the Mandalay Bay shooting and that incident that happened as many red flags as there is with this incident that we just had in Texas. I mean,
Well,
there's
and see, that's the problem is because when the NRA fights under the guise of shall not be infringed upon, if you start coming up with red flag laws and coming up with things that address mental health, you start infringing on people's rights. Let's say I type something crazy on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or something, and all of a sudden the gun police show up to my house, or as Trump said, take away the guns first and then have due process. That has infringement written all over it because you're going to take guns away from innocent people. So that's why I'm suggesting that what Trump said, you guys aren't holding him accountable for that. That is a horribly oppressive issue in regards to the Second Amendment. You guys are giving them a pass, but taking away guns first and then giving due process, you can't see where that could lead to some innocent folks losing their gun rights. That should be pretty obvious.
oh, they're talking about doing things now, and it's in fast forward from that, you know, because he said if I think he slipped in there something about a mental health thing too. So I would
Okay,
imagine
I'll play
I
it
would
again because folks are asking. Go ahead. I'll let you wrap it up and then I'll play it again
uh,
because folks in the comments are asking.
but I think he was talking about it's I think it kind of tied into a mental health issue. And I sit there after, you know, I get out of here, I'll sit and listen to the video again when he play it. But, you know, fast forward to now, they're talking because it's been touched on quite a bit about putting vets into the schools, and then you had a gentleman, I think it was last night, that was talking about how great the VA is and how the vets are already vetted and all that. Well, our
Right.
very government is trying to use that. Is they're talking about using that exact same thing against us. If
Yeah.
anybody, if there is any vet that is receiving care through the VA that has been diagnosed with PTSD, they are talking about eliminating that veteran's right to possess firearms. Is something
Well,
that's getting
but
thrown around.
and see, the thing about it is, if you got PTSD and they do not eliminate your right to have a firearm, and then you go and take a bunch of lives, I mean, I guess who gets to be held accountable? And see, this is where it's a gray area. And that's what I said. The NRA is trying to defend your rights under all circumstances. And that's what makes it difficult when a person does do something that's suspect to take away the firearms, because the NRA makes it as hard as possible to do it. So it's a gray area, but if you do start passing red flag laws and you do start addressing mental health, and you do it from the perspective that Trump presented, where you take the gun first and then due process, there's no way you're going to do that without taking away guns from some innocent people, because somebody's going to make a mistake when you do something before giving people due process.
Right. Well, it's again, we can listen to it, but I think it was tied to the mental health thing. If somebody's flagged for mental health, just like they're saying that kid that did the school
Right.
thing, saying it's something at like 14 years old. He was investigated by the local police, saying that, hey, when I turn 18, my buddy and I are going to shoot a school up. And then the little fucker turns 18 and shoots a school up, but he wasn't put on a watch list.
Well,
You know,
let me just say this, and I'll wrap it up with you and play it. But let me just say this: if you take away guns based on red flags, or like you're talking about, before giving somebody due process, at this point, Joe Biden would lose all his weapons, because folks believe he has dementia. Folks believe he's out of his mind. He has enough going on right now that without due process, he would be disarmed. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up and play the
all
video, man.
right.
All right,
All right. Have a
all
good
right.
night.
You too, man. Always good to hear from you.
Let me make sure I got my damn speaker turned back on, because without it, you won't hear this shit. Okay. Now this is right after the Mandalay Bay event in Nevada, where the guy was firing across the street, took out the window at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, fired and hit like 500 people across the street at a concert from the Mandalay Bay, killing, I believe, 50 something. Here we go.
Said I have to wait till I'm 21 to get a handgun, but I can get this weapon at 18. I don't know. So I was just curious as to what you did in your bill. You don't address it?
We didn't address it, Mr. President, but I think
why? Because you're afraid of the NRA, right? Chris, did you have something?
No. I think you underestimate the power of the gun lobby.
No, I'll tell you what. And they do have great power. I agree with that. They have great power over you people. They have less power over me. I don't need it. What do I need? But I tell you, they are well-meaning. And I said to them very nice, I said, fellas, we got to do something. We can't keep restricting, and we have to do what's right. When it comes to mental health and other issues, I said, we have to do what's right. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. He had a lot of firearms. They saw everything. To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
Okay, now you already said it, a crazy man, and as opposed to going to court and trying to prove that the guy is crazy, take his guns first and then give him due process in court. So anybody who thinks you're crazy, such as Joe Biden, everybody thinks Joe Biden crazy, he would lose his firearms and have to go to court to prove he's sane. How can you do that without infringing on somebody's rights? Because eventually somebody's going to believe somebody is crazy that's 100% sane. Let's take a guy like, what is the guy from Jackass? Johnny Knoxville. The guy does all these crazy stuff. He would lose his guns every day of the fucking week. Every day of the week. You put him on TV doing those Jackass stunts, that dude's going to be disarmed. And then he has to go to court. He's got, how many citizens out there that own firearms could not afford a lawyer? Seriously, what Trump just suggested would be a liberal paradise. You have the prosecutors or the district attorneys. This is a backdoor way of taking away guns. you have the highest echelons of liberal governments deem folks crazy because we know they cannot afford lawyers. This would literally, if we did what Trump was suggesting, this would literally give liberals the power to take away your guns. You just find attorneys to pick out people that they don't like, say that they're crazy, and leave it up to them to have to go to court and hire lawyers and prove that they're sane. How could you give Trump a pass for this? I mean, without due process. You want to talk about liberals taking away guns from citizens with no reason to do so? I submit to you, Donald J. Trump. Okay, let me go to the comments. Quigs and Daddy Pew, I see you coming next.
Spending this shit. I love it. I love hearing this is a critical as they come. Quigs, how you doing?
Hello, how are you? You
I'm
are
doing
one
good.
liberal that I can actually have a conversation with.
I
And
love that. Thank you. I'm glad to have folks like you.
I appreciate you and what you're saying. However, I'll let you know I am 100% conservative.
Nothing wrong with that. Welcome here all day, every day. I hear that train in your background. You got a
I live in a
locomotive
very
here in you.
small town. I'm sorry, I'm in my car.
I can hear you though.
Um,
No problem. I can hear you.
okay. I I see what you're saying about I'm losing a lot of train of thoughts because there's so many things I wanted to say, but I didn't get a chance to because I had to
Okay.
wait.
Well, let me help egg you on. Do you believe what Trump is saying could lead to infringements on the gun rights of innocent people?
Yes, I do see your point there that could be, but I do think that kind of want to take a step
Somebody
back,
said,
but because
Don said in the comments, you got the Trump train behind you.
yeah, well, I have to say I love my Donald Trump. I do love Donald J. Trump.
Nothing
I think
wrong
that
with that.
he was an excellent president. That's my opinion. I think that his record has proven that he has been, and definitely my gas tank is saying that he is. But was but going back to Joe, unfortunately, I do think that Biden does have dementia.
Okay.
And I can say that because I work with people that have dementia, and he does do a lot of word salad and a lot of things. And it's actually kind of sad. But the same thing can be said what you were saying about, and I'm probably catching it because I'm sorry, I've had a really long day. But
All right.
the same thing can be said about Joe is that when Joe says some things like when he said, if you don't know who you're voting for, you ain't black, when he called
Mhm.
kids, black kids cockroaches, when he said that Barack Obama was the first articulate black man and clean and all those kinds of things. And I mean, to me, I found that to be racist. And being a mother of a biracial child,
Mhm.
he really pissed me off with some of the comments that he made, and he got a lot of passes. Now, if Donald Trump would have said half of those things, oh my God, because we all know that the mainstream media would be 24/7, nonstop. I mean, that you know, Trump has been called a racist so many times, but whenever I've asked somebody, well, give me an example of how he's racist, they can't come up with anything.
I can. I can come up with something. In fact, I made a video, but I'll give you my spiel. I don't want to play the video's about 10 minutes long, but I won't go. I'll just simply tell you this. In 2015, Trump retweeted, I don't know what racist site he found it from, but he tweeted out that African Americans are responsible for nearly all of white homicides, 81%. And when he tweeted it out, the liberals went nuts because you're making it sound like blacks are just killing white people wholesale. Bill O'Reilly interviewed him on it, and Bill O'Reilly asked him, like, where did you get this from? Because the real number is 15%, it's not 81%. And Trump stated that, well, I just got it off some site, and Bill O'Reilly told him, you got to fact check what you send out. And Trump said, well, you think I have time to fact check everything I say or tweet out? And Bill O'Reilly was like, you got to. You're the one that's known for saying fake news. Now, here's the problem with that. When you tweet out that black people are responsible for nearly all white homicides, if you truly are a MAGA supporter, and you don't have any friends or neighbors or anybody that's black, and you believe what the president is saying, how might you feel when you see an African American coming down the street when you're being told that if you ever are a victim of a homicide, chances are it's a black person that's going to do it? I mean, he didn't apologize. The numbers are terribly wrong. And at the end of the day, he never even gave a reason. Why would you tweet that out to begin with? Why would you be telling white people that if they're ever a victim of a homicide, chances are a black person did it? I did a whole video on it so you can see him admitting to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not me coming from CNN, or he's sitting
Mm-hmm.
down with Bill O'Reilly and he's admitting it, and Bill O'Reilly is telling him, you cannot do stuff like this because people are going to say you're a racist. And he's trying to spin and get out of it. I got a video on YouTube titled Trump Never Said Anything Racist. For anybody who wants to see it, type in the handsome liberal, and the video is named Trump Never Said Anything Racist. And you'll see him admitting it to Bill O'Reilly. So when folks say, well, Trump never said anything racist, I submit that to you. That's pretty bad. But go ahead.
No, and if he did say that, and I will look that up. I'm not one person that's gonna say that. But having said that, I would hope that people would have more common sense. Like I have a lot more common sense than to take everything that, even as much as I loved him and thought he was a great president, I'm not going to take everything as, just like, for instance, he took the vaccine. I don't care. I'm not going to take the vaccine. I don't want to get into that. But, just because
Right.
he said that doesn't mean that I'm going to think that, oh my God, because, I do live in a small town America right now, but I grew up in Minneapolis area. So it was a pretty big area. So I, but when I grew up, where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of black people, to be honest
Mm-hmm.
with you.
That's fair.
But I'm not going to say, I'm not afraid of, I'm just afraid of a black man as I am as a white man. I'm
Okay.
afraid of a white man as much as I am a black man. If I don't know you, I'm going to be
Right.
weary of you no matter what your color is.
And that's a
And
fair take. And that's a fair take. I'm just simply saying if you're someone who truly believes the president, because after all, the president, nobody in this country has access to more information than the president. So if you don't have a lot of African American friends or associates, and the president tells you that, if you ever die of if you're ever a victim of a homicide, chances are it's a black person. I know myself, if I was in that situation and I was white, anytime I saw a black person coming on the street, I would certainly put my hand on my gun or try to avoid them. I mean, you just painted them out to look like they're responsible for almost every white homicide. To me, comparing something like that to vote for me or you ain't black, it pales in comparison. And I see
well,
your
right,
comment here, Johnny.
but
Go
but
ahead.
also but also if you really look at it, Biden also wanted to keep segregation in schools, and
True.
he wanted,
True.
because he didn't want his kids to be growing up in a concrete jungle, so he was
In a
calling
racial jungle.
black
Yeah.
people gorillas and monkeys and stuff like that. That's what he was saying, that he was afraid that they were going to bash his mother's head in and stuff like that. That is just as dangerous. And that was out there on TV and everything else. I
Yep.
don't do Twitter world, so I didn't see all those tweets and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff, because I don't like Twitter. I don't.
And that's what I say that. Well, first of all, in my opinion, anybody that is any white guy that is Trump or Biden's age probably has a little bit of racism in him because that's just what the norm was when they came up. Now, I will say though, take Trump out of the picture, put DeSantis in the picture, or maybe even Ted Cruz, and Biden would not have won. I believe the only reason Biden won would have passed as racially suspicious, as you're pointing out, and there's a lot of African Americans that view Biden as having a racial past, with Senator Byrd, for instance. But the only reason I think Biden won is because Trump has equally as much racial skeletons in his closet as Biden does. And
Well, I could,
that's what hurt him.
but he also had the media out there. I mean, you
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
admit that the media is primarily left. So, if they
yeah.
don't, personally, if the media is sitting there saying that Ted Cruz, or even, um, there was one Democratic, what's her name? I like her. Gabbard, or what's her name?
Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes, I love her. That's one Democrat I could kind of like, and I like what she's saying, but look what they're doing to her. They don't like
Yeah.
her because that she'll say something that is doesn't always
You
put
don't say nothing.
their
Yeah.
platform.
Tulsi Gabbard is a modern day Liz Cheney. You guys don't like Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney. I mean, she's speaking for the most part anti-democratic stuff. Of course, they're not going to
Hmm.
like her. She doesn't like the party anymore.
Right. Well, I think. Well, and look what they're doing to. Oh my gosh, the Democrats I can get back. The blue dog Democrats out
Okay.
there. They seem to be a little, and that's kind of where I think that you are. I
Thank you.
see you more as that because I think that you're more reasonable.
That's fair.
I think that you could see both sides, and that's where the problem is that there's such hypocrisy in it. And I don't want to say, because the GOP is just as a, at fault with that kind of stuff too, but I see a lot more hypocrisy coming from the left, like Ms. Waters, sitting there saying that
Oh
she
yeah.
if
Well,
you
yeah. That Maxine Waters is kind of like what is the woman from Carolina that also said what is that crazy the Jewish space lasers and all? Yeah, Maxine Waters is far to the left. What is the
mhm,
girl from the right that said some pretty wild stuff also? The congresswoman from Georgia.
green
Yes,
green
Marjorie Taylor. Yeah, say
yeah.
you got fringes on the party on both sides. I think Maxine Waters is probably kind of harmful to the Democratic Party to some degree, and I certainly think Marjorie Taylor Greene is harmful to the Republicans. But people vote them in, so what can you do?
Well, I can say that, but I've never heard Marjorie Green say threaten to have them attack people at gas stations, and I've just never seen anybody like what they did to Sanders, that former press secretary, that she's Arkansas, when she went to that restaurant and they were telling her to
Yeah,
leave and
I,
all
I
that
get
kind of
what you're
stuff.
saying. To be confrontational. Marjorie
Hmm.
Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene has done some confrontational stuff, though. You just have to
Hmm.
look it up. Marjorie Taylor Greene has done some stuff to really hurt your party, just like you're
Oh, I
pointing out
agree.
Maxine Ward. Now, here's the
Well, no, I
difference, though.
agree.
Okay, fair enough. Here's the difference, though. Like you said, when you've heard stuff from the left and a lot of stuff you don't hear from the right. That's why I like having conversations with audiences like this with MAGA and predominantly Republicans, is
Mm,
because if you only watch news that you agree with, you will not hear stuff that is critical of your party. Like the Trump thing I just told you about, or like the video I
right,
played of Trump talking about taking away guns. A lot of right wingers did not hear that because
right,
it did not get played over and over again in right wing circles. If a liberal had
right,
said exactly what Trump said, they would be still playing that. It would be right up there with Beto saying, "You bet I'm gonna take away your guns." Because what Trump said was
right,
pretty infringible. It was pretty
right.
infringible. But if you watch
Yeah.
only OAN or Newsmax, they're not going to keep playing that. So the notion that the
Well, right.
media is biased is go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I hear you.
The last thing I want to say about that whole deal is that what happened in Texas was horrific, and I don't even want to really talk about that because I'll start crying again about it. But a couple days after that incident, I don't know what his name is. I don't remember. I think it was in Virginia, but a
The, the
black
good girl
woman
with a gun.
actually shot a black man and prevented a mass shooting because he was out there with the AK-50, whatever
Yeah.
that is, and was gonna shoot. She's a concealed carry. She took out her gun and she killed the man, which that proves that the Second Amendment does work. And people that but they don't show that. They don't
I agree
show
with
that
you.
because that doesn't fit the narrative. And that's where I think that I don't like to listen to any news. Lately, I haven't wanted to listen to any news because I don't trust any kind of news, whether it be Fox, OAN, CNN, MSNBC, because I think that there are a lot of things that they really are not telling us. I mean, why? Like for instance, why are they so focused on the Johnny Depp thing when when
Yeah.
they do that? It tells me that there's something that they're hiding. We're not ever being told the truth. I mean, we're never going to find out who killed JFK. There's so much that our government is hiding from us that the news is not trustworthy anymore. Journalism is dead. It's been dead for a long time, and that's really sad.
Fair enough. Well, I do agree that the media has always had an agenda, but listen, I do got to move it on. Absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
I can't get in the same camp with you as a JFK thing, but I do agree with quite a bit of that last spiel. JFK is a little bit before my time. I can't necessarily
Well, it's
jump in
before
the
my time
same.
too.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, come on back anytime. Let me move it on then.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. You have a great night. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, you too. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you. All right,
Okay.
let me look at quick news outlets for just that news. Yeah. Are you serious? She just said JFK. I mean, well, I did make it clear to the caller that I don't believe I'm not in the camp that the JFK, the way that whole thing was solved was some kind of conspiracy. I understand anything that happens that is big news in America. There are going to be people who believe it wasn't told to you correctly, whether it's the man on the moon, the towers collapsing on September 11th, Princess Diana in the limousine crash. I had a guy on here last night that told me JFK Jr. is still alive. I mean, any major event that takes place in this country, you know, Elvis is out there walking around somewhere, hanging out with Tupac, sipping cola. All of these things, you're always going to hear a conspiracy. So it is what it is. I don't know where else to go with that. I just simply made it clear to her that I'm not in the camp that JFK was assassinated by the CIA or something like that. I get folks on here now that are suggesting that the mass casualty events are being perpetrated on us because it's an election year, or that Bill Gates is deliberately holding baby formula back. I mean, I get the conspiracies all the time. I don't know what else to say about them. Now, I will say, talking to the left, I cannot think of a lot of conspiracies that come from the left. I think most of the conspiracies I hear come from the right. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. But I'll ask you something. Can you answer? Says Donnie Barber. Sure you can. Sure you can. If you can get in the box, I'm gonna put you there too. But you can. I'll go ahead and ask. I'm gonna look on the screen right now for your comment. You said you want to ask me something. That was what was it? Danny Barber. Go ahead and place your comment. I'm looking for your comment to pop up, and I will respond to that. Giving millions of guns to Ukraine and trying to ban them here. John Kramer, the Ukrainians are at war. It's a little bit different there. Danny Barber, I'm looking for your comment. I'm gonna go to the next caller in a second. I'm just look. Danny said he wanted to ask me something, or Donnie Barber, or what. I'm looking for that comment. Delta, I saw Elvis Presley walking into Starbucks. Starbucks. How old would Elvis Presley be at this point? You know, and I just read an article, I think yesterday, that the Presley estate has demanded that all of the brothels, or not brothels, not brothels, all of the wedding chapels in Las Vegas stop using Elvis Presley and his likeness. So you got a lot of wedding chapels in Vegas that are suggesting that they may go bankrupt. But the Elvis Presley estate just issued a cease and desist order to all of the wedding chapels in Las Vegas that use Elvis Presley. So that could be interesting. I'm looking for that comment from Barbara there. I don't see. You asked if you could ask me something. I gave you. I'm gonna go to the next caller because I do not see whatever it was you wanted to ask me. Yeah, I don't. I'm looking through, scrolling through. Like I said, folks, free speech. I do like to let folks speak when they want to ask me something, and that was Donnie Barber suggested he wanted to ask me a comment. Okay, yes, I'm in Vegas, seen that on the news. Yeah, except the Graceland Chapel. Well, that's his home. I'm assuming they wouldn't tell the because isn't that ran by his daughter? The chapel, I've been to that in is that Memphis? Yeah, I've been there in Graceland, but yeah, that's his own home. He's buried there in Graceland, so I would assume you would let him. And not only the amount of tourism that Graceland brings to Memphis, and that would really be horrible if Graceland couldn't use it. Second Amendment doesn't explicitly protect high-powered rifles, but does it? Depends on who interprets that. That's the Supreme Court. That would be up to the Supreme Court to interpret how the Second Amendment feels about high-powered rifles. How about a round of Yo Mama jokes? Well, give me a good one, NGF Bro Coleman, and I will read it off. It's got to make me laugh, though. People say things that are very funny in the comments all the time. You give me a really good Yo Mama joke, and I will echo it. He did ask scroll above. I'm looking above for Donnie Barber. Let me see. Okay, I'm a veteran. Why did Obama move us troops out
and we had to take back over that area. Okay, you got to give me some logistics. You're a veteran, and Obama moved troops out of what area that you had to reacclaim? Which are you talking about, in the Afghanistan theater? Or are you talking about in Iraq? Okay, I need more information on that. I'm scrolling up just to make sure you haven't typed more information. I don't see anything else in there. So yeah, I don't know where you're going with that. The Second Amendment was made when the highest gun was muskets, and they were the military. Once again, like I said, though, in regards to whether the Second Amendment should have evolved with the firearms we have today, or should it have stuck to muskets, that is an interpretation that will have to be left up to the Supreme Court. And with a 6-3 majority, we already kind of know where that's going to go. And that Larry gave you a good response, Donnie Barber. He said the presidents listen to generals. So in regards to what about the decisions that Obama made when you were enlisted? He took the general's advice, and I would probably give that same answer without even knowing what you're about to ask. Now Trump was different. I believe Trump stated that he knew more about the Middle East than anybody. So Trump does a lot of things unilaterally, even including when he first became president. The NSA and the CIA was giving him intelligence reports on Russia, and he was telling the NSA they didn't know what the hell they were talking about, and he was favoring Russian intelligence. So he's a little different, but yeah, it would not surprise me if Biden or Obama made a decision based on stuff coming from the Joint Chiefs, stuff's coming from the Pentagon. So the black guy against this dumb. Okay, let me take the call. How often are you wrong? Let me see who asked that question. Wasteful. How often am I wrong? Quite often, by the way. And here's the difference, though. When I'm wrong, your humble correspondent is willing to admit it. In fact, I had somebody dispute my definition of propaganda on a lunchtime broadcast, and I conceded the point. I concede points all the time. Anybody who watched my broadcast frequently will tell you I have no problem admitting where information sounds more valid than what I just presented. I'm not here to come across as being right 100% of the time. I'm here to listen to you and hopefully get you to listen to me. But good question. Okay, I'm going to the callers. Daddy Puke, appreciate you.
I will get you on here momentarily. Daddy Poop,
hey,
good evening.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So what question you got? What question you got today?
The topic I'm presenting, because I've gotten so sick of talking about folks losing their lives in mass casualty events, I just wanted to give something a little bit more calmer, and I'm willing to be the sacrificial lamb with a name like the Handsome Liberal. I'm asking, what is your opinion? Give me your honest, humble opinion. What is your opinion of Democrats? Democrats in general, liberals in general. What is your opinion of liberals?
Well, like someone had said earlier, I think that liberal and Democrat, I think, is kind of two separate issues.
They come together doing the ballots at the ballot box. They tend to come together. But okay, you can separate. Let's go with liberal.
They don't have a choice, right?
Fair enough. Yep, they don't have a choice. I agree with that. But as opposed to Democrat, what do you think of liberals?
I think they're crazy.
Why would you say that? Elaborate on that.
I just think that there's just so many of them that are unhinged. The other day I was watching a news thing and they were talking about how they're trying to get an elephant out of a zoo, and they were saying, well, you don't have to be a human to have human rights. And I said, that's where we've gone. I said, where have we gone wrong?
Well, I'm gonna give you my liberal spiel on that. You don't have to be a human to have rights. I think there's a lot of liberals who believe
they said human rights.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think a lot of liberals, particularly liberals that are very strongly in favor of pro-choice, would suggest that an embryo right after conception, you guys are giving that a hell of a lot more rights than they think it should get as well. I'm just giving it for both sides, but go ahead.
Sure. No, I think that I think the abortion thing is that there's that's a whole can of worms. But I mean, I think there's just that I feel like every time there's a goalpost, they just go, how can we make it even more radical and come out and say something even crazier than before? You
Do
know,
you think, would you put Biden in that same category?
I mean, I think Biden in history has been sort of moderate. I think that his handlers are more Democrat
Handlers?
or more liberal. I mean, I've been listening and watching where there's nobody that's saying he's got it all together. I mean, he's not allowed to answer questions because they won't let me answer questions, and he turns around and walks out. I mean, who's they?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, he's trying to shake hands with somebody that's not even standing there. I mean, come on. I mean,
okay. All right. All right. I
so
to some degree, I guess I can't really argue with you because he doesn't take a lot of press conferences and he doesn't answer a lot of
no,
questions. But once again, I will say, just like I mentioned about him taking a cognitive test, to some degree, he cannot win. If he truly
no,
does have a stuttering problem, he claims
I
he has a stuttering problem. I don't care
he
if he's
does, and
70.
I believe he does have a stuttering problem, but he changes subjects. I mean, so stuttering is
Yeah.
different when you can't say something, fast as you want to say it. You stumble a little bit, but you don't say, "Hey, I like French fries," and "What's up in the sky?" I mean, it's
Okay,
you know,
I made a bad mistake. I just gave you a piece of red meat basket about Biden. Let's pick somebody else. Oh, let's take Obama because I just gave you red meat. I messed up on that. There's too
okay.
much material on Biden. But let's go with Obama, the
I
former
mean,
president
I think
Obama.
Obama is pretty well. I wouldn't say centralist, more centralist than the party's going. I think the party's moving much farther left. So I think that even he has gone to where he's pushing policies and backing policies that are far more liberal, as we'd say.
Wasn't Obama supposed to be the socialist? Shout out to Joe the plumber. You said he's a centralist,
Well,
a
I mean,
centrist.
I don't. I mean, I don't think he had the radical views. At least he didn't push radical views like they do now. He's not like AOC or the all the ones that are in the tribe group, whatever they call them. That are just that much further. And I think that the party is moving that direction. And I don't know that I know that's not healthy, but I think that's where it's going. I think you brought up Biden. I think Biden is pushing that way too because I think that he's seeing that
So what
they
you're
have to
so
kind of go
what
that way.
you're So what you're basically are suggesting is that Obama was not as radical as the right was painting him to be. Because remember, he was supposed to be a socialist.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think every the other side always paints people worse than they are.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
So
I
I
just
think that's
wanted to ask that.
I think
Let
that's
me let
that.
me ask you. I asked this earlier. I don't know if you responded or if you were even here or not, but I
Yeah,
asked this earlier. If you had to give the Obama presidency a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F, what would you give it?
I would say a C minus.
Okay, because I had some
Yeah,
F minuses in the comments. There were people,
yeah.
folks who
I
gave
mean,
Obama
F.
an
I
F
mean,
minus.
yeah, F minus is just a kind of a that's a ridiculous statement. I mean, I think there's always room for improvement, and there's always and I say they always can be something worse, but maybe not. But
Well, you
I feel
can't go
like
below an F minus. You can't do any
right.
worse than F minus. So
Yeah, and so I like you had said about Trump. I think Trump did a lot of good things, but he says a lot of stupid stuff, and so could he have divided less? I have a lot of family who didn't vote for him because of his personality and the things he says, but they like the policies he has, So I think that he could have been a better person,
yeah.
but I think he had good policies. I think that but if we look at Biden, I think Biden is far worse than Obama was. But I think that
So
a lot of that is just the direction that the party's going.
so in regards to you, you're talking about Trump liking his policies, and I understand that the economy was going pretty well under Trump. By the way, give me up to 10,000, folks. We just about to tap your screen. In regards to Trump liking his policies, which makes sense. I mean, certainly now when you see how the country's going now, it makes sense that folks will like Trump's policies. But you're pointing out the negativity from the comments, tweets, and things like that. What do
Sure.
you think about the notion that he looks like he's going to run in 2024 doing the exact same thing?
Yeah, I mean, part of me likes that he fires people up to get people motivated to vote. So I like that part of it, but I don't really want him to run. I mean, if with me, I'd rather have like someone like DeSantis that's younger that still could run, and do great things. I think that Trump's too old, and he's because of the whole January 6th thing. No matter what side you come down on, not there's enough just problems with it that it just alienates him and makes it so it's a bad situation. So I don't really want him to run. Now, if that's if he's on the ticket and it's him and Biden, then I mean, it's no question who I'm voting
Right.
for. I can't imagine that Biden gets to run again because I just don't
I
see
don't.
that
Yeah, I don't
happening.
expect that either. I don't. I wouldn't advise him to run again. I mean, because there's
I,
right now, unless there's some significant improvement in the economy, yeah, I think it would be a bad move for him. And not to mention, he's gonna be pretty damn old. I
yeah,
wouldn't be a fan of that. But
he's already
it's
pretty
it's
damn old.
interesting. Go ahead, say it again.
He's already pretty damn old.
Yeah. Well,
So
keep in
three
mind,
more
Trump.
years.
Keep in
Trump's
mind,
old
Trump
too.
is
Trump's old.
yeah, he's gonna be
Yeah,
the exact same
he's
age.
too old. Yeah, he's too old. No,
Yeah.
but if you look at energy wise, Trump has got a ton of energy. I mean, he's down. He was speaking at one place, in the morning, and he flies across the country and speaks somewhere in the afternoon. You know,
But here's the
even
issue
during
I
the
have with
election,
right.
even during
But
the
here's the
election,
issue I
Biden's
have with
taking a
Trump.
nap.
Here's the issue I have with Trump. With Biden, you're suggesting, or folks are suggesting, he has, cognitive dissonance. He doesn't have his mental faculty. So if he says something stupid, he has an excuse. Well, shit, I don't even know where I'm at. Trump is supposedly perfectly sane saying that stuff.
He
Like,
said he says stupid stuff. He's a New York used car salesman. I mean, and so he's brash. He's a bragger. And a lot of that I think is just to fire people up and get things going. And like you were saying about what you thought was a racist comment from him. I mean, I think it might have been an ignorant comment. I don't know that it was a racist comment because unless you could say, "Hey, he knew that was incorrect," and he came out and said that was incorrect, knowing that he's trying to push that agenda, I would say that's a racist thing to say. But to
well,
say,
I guess here's two things I will say on that. First of all, if you give out bad information that riles up a lot of voters and you don't come back and apologize for it, as far as we're concerned, you actually believe it. The second thing is, why tweet that out in the first place? What is the
that's a great.
reason why you would tweet out that most homicides of white people were committed by black? Like, I can't come up with even, and I'm really good at playing devil's advocate. I can see both sides of most issues. I cannot
Right.
come up with anything in Trump's defense as to why you would be tweeting out to whites that blacks are killing you guys like this.
I would like to have known what was happening around that same time. If something did something happen uh, in the country where he was kind of like trying to like respond to it, or I don't know. I'm not saying he didn't say something racist. I question, like, before I say something's racist, I'd like to be like, hey, he did that and knew it was wrong, and that's racist. Versus just saying some stupid shit out there that
Yeah,
you know
yeah, and that's the
everybody's
thing,
throwing out bad information as far as incorrect
right?
stats and all the other stuff, and that's just it might be ignorant but not necessarily racist.
Right, and
So
Kelly 2WA in the comments on very very a friend of the program. I guess that's the best
yeah,
way I would
yep,
describe it. She's saying the mainstream media gives out bad, untrue information every day. That's 100% true. But I made a video of this on YouTube. He's actually admitting it to Bill
right,
O'Reilly because Bill O'Reilly is asking him, why would you do this? And he's talking about, well, I just got it from here and I didn't fact check it and things like that. And like I said, folks who, if you want to go to the Handsome Liberal on YouTube and just simply type in, Trump never said anything racist. And I got a video on it. I don't use CNN. I don't
right,
source from MSNBC or any sites. It's Trump on video admitting he said it. That's all it is. So you
sure,
don't get any sources from anything you can question. It's Trump on TV admitting he did it and giving just some of the lame excuses like, I don't have time to fact check what I tweet out. Bill O'Reilly is asking him, like, you're running for president. You got to fact check what you tweet out. Not to mention what's really strange is Trump is known for the phrase fake news. But yet here
Right.
he is tweeting out something that is completely incorrect and saying, well, I didn't have time to fact check it.
Right.
It's
Well, I mean,
crazy.
he stretches the truth on a regular basis. I mean, everyone thinks he's, you see the numbers of on the other side. He's lied 100,000 times, or something. There's always
Yeah.
some ridiculous number, and yeah, he definitely inflates numbers and throws out. Like I said, I feel like he's a used car salesman who's trying to sell something and saying it's the fastest car that's ever been made. Doesn't mean it's the fastest car. It might be a fast car, but
Well, make no mistake about it. One thing used car salesmen are known for is lying a lot.
Sure. No, absolutely. And
So,
I'm and well here let me he's a politician, sort of. All politicians are liars, every one of them. You don't get that
you're
level
the
without
first.
lying.
You're the first MAGA folks that actually refer to Trump as a politician. It's usually he's not a typical
He's
politician.
not a that's why I backed a little bit because he's not a true politician because it's not his background. But when you become president, you become a politician. So I mean, I think that there's still a politician, and I
I
like that he's not a
believe.
true politician. But
Yeah, I got to move on, but I'll give you the last
yeah,
one. But I will say this: I strongly believe if Trump was a true politician, or a seasoned politician, or even somebody willing to take cues from a politician, he would still be in office today. I'll give you the last word.
if it wasn't for COVID, he'd still be president today. The only
Possible,
reason he didn't,
possible.
the market was going crazy. The only thing that people started seeing their bank accounts dropping because they weren't working, their things were going back, starting to decline, and that is when things turned. And whether he handled it great or not, that's arguable. But I think that if he was on an upswing and things were improving, and when that happened, I think that's what killed his chances.
Okay, so you say COVID did it. I don't know. I think I might have a different opinion there, but okay, we'll end it there. We can agree to
All
disagree.
right.
Come on back through, man. Appreciate hearing from
Until
you.
next time. Have a good night, man.
Absolutely. And you too. You too. So let me see. True politician would have won. Yeah, I strongly believe you take the tweeting away from Trump and maybe allow him to at least be able to listen to some of his advisors. I know you guys don't like the CDC. I know you don't give a shit about the FDA and things like that, but I don't know. If you're the president, it doesn't matter who you are. Nobody knows everything. And not being willing to listen to top scientists, generals, and things like that is not going to work in your best benefit. Certainly when you live in a free country and those generals and scientists can actually get on TV and say, this guy won't take any of our advice. I mean, can you imagine a financial advisor getting on television and saying, we tried to give Biden advice and he wouldn't listen to none of it? Look at the economy. It would ruin them. And you had many folks from different entities of American life saying that about Trump. So I do believe if he had been being advised by a typical politician, that just somebody who could have edited his tweets or cooler head prevailed type person, you get up at 3 a.m., your Twitter account is disabled between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. That way you don't wake up angry and just tweet some shit. And I think he would have benefited from that greatly. All right, folks. Well, it is that time as usual. I do have to work in the morning just like everybody else. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Catch you guys tomorrow. I appreciate all you guys who follow the program. 10,000 likes plus. You guys have really been good on that. True patriots out there. We don't always agree. You know my spiel. But at the end of the day, as long as we're having a conversation, I can live with that. And hopefully you can too. Catch you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I'm out.